Good evening, Norcal. This is Jason. And tonight, April 18th, we have a very, very, very special show. This is our How to Get Started in Karting. And tonight is going to be a one night show, but I imagine, depending on how many questions come in and the content that we're able to reach, we're going to expand this possibly into multiple series. But we have a lot of guests lined up tonight. The chat lines are open. This is going to be a question and answer. Again, this is how to get into karting. So this is not the Bible on how to get into karting. This is an introduction, and we're just going to expand on this as we go. So most of you know who I am. I'm going to quit talking, and let's bring up our first guest, Phil Hand. Many people know who Phil is.
Hello.
Phil Hand, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. I love the shirt.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Figured you
So,
would.
Phil, tell our new listeners and our viewers, give us a quick background on who you are, why you're on my show tonight, and why people might recognize you.
So some of the Norcal drivers might recognize me. I'm the local flagman in Norcal. I flag at all the club races, Prairie City, Dixon, Davis, Stockton, even sometimes in Reading, Reno. I do the KPX series, and then I've also started to do a little venturing into the SCUSA stuff as a marshal. So I've been kind of doing it for a long time. It's been about 23, 24 years I've been into it. And I did some racing at the beginning, but I enjoy doing the work out on the track. I like being in the middle of the action.
And how long have you been in the sport?
Probably about 23, 24 years in karting.
So, and some people probably are wondering why I have Phil on the show. I try to find a combination on our panel tonight we have some brand new guys on and we have experienced veterans on. So we wanted to keep a nice range of guests so we can kind of hit and hint at every single aspect of karting. So Phil, thank you for joining us tonight. And then next up, we're going to introduce James McMahon from Kart Pulse. James, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So give us a background. Tell us who you are. Let our viewers know why you're on my show tonight.
Well, I'm on your show because you picked me. That's really it. And I was more than happy to join. But I guess, my background, I go back to karting in around 93, 94. But most recently, we've been more involved in setting up resources to help people get started in karting and help them stay in karting through internet forums and things like that. So Kart Pulse is one of the things that we run. At kartpulse.com, you can come check out.
Kartpulse.com. That is James McMahon. All right. And next up, this guy almost needs no introduction. Let's see. Don't fan out. Xander Clements, Mr. Kart Chaser. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. It's pretty light night, especially I cleared my stuff off on Mondays normally, so it's an easygoing night for me.
Very good. And explain to our viewers why you're on the show tonight.
Yeah, so I've been in karting, as long as I could have. We really got in on owner karting side around when I was 12 years old. I'm 23 now, so I guess that puts me in the sport for 11 years in a bunch of different perspectives before Kart Chaser even. And then if it were my choice, it would have been a lot sooner when I was doing indoor rental karting camps at 7, 8, and 9 and pitching PowerPoint presentations to my mom and dad about how we could get in, and until the answer would always come, we don't have the money to get in and we don't know how to get in. So it took me a while, and I was able to find my way in, and funny enough, sim racing was a big help for me because I met a lot of other like-minded kids my age at the time, and when I would go to meet them in person at the racetrack, they and their families were super helpful in getting me and my dad going. And we never really fully, I don't think, ever knew what we were doing, but I figured that at least doing sprint karting and road course karting, I had a better chance that if we had a really bad setup car or an underperforming engine, I could make up for it a little bit more than maybe if we did oval stuff or legends or bandoleros or quarter midgets. So we ended up doing this, and what do you know, 11 years later, I'm more entrenched in the sport than I can even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a great job with the Kart Chaser thing. I mean, I don't really need to oversell you. Most most people in karting that have been doing it for more than about 5 minutes know who you are. So, and I'm so glad you hinted at, we don't know how to get in. That's what this whole show is about. We're targeting that new guy that doesn't know how to get into karting or where to start. So
Right.
hopefully we're going to answer those questions tonight. And again, if you're listening or watching and you have questions, type away. The panel is at your disposal tonight. So Xander, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And next up, we're going to have Lisa Caceres with Race Karts Inc. So right now we don't have a camera feed for her, but we have audio. Lisa, thank you for joining us tonight, and introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everybody. I am the owner of Race Karts Inc., kart racing schools. I've been conducting karting programs for 30 years, and I've been involved in karting for 36 years. So in my schools, we have everything from the beginners to the national racers that we coach, but we get people started in karting as early as age 5 all the way through to adults. And we have one-day programs, and they are at the Blue Max kart track in Davis. And we help people not only in the school, but afterwards. We really, really like to continue with our customers and help them get started in karting, whether it's for a hobby or for kart racing. And we can help them in every way, as far as what club to join, what kind of kart to purchase based on how they drive in the class, as far as their skill levels, what kind of motor package, if they want to transport their kart, what they need, if they need customer support, where we can send them. So we try to help them out as much as we can so that we can keep them in karting for a long time and really enjoy it.
Well, your business is responsible for draining my savings account. my first time in a go-kart was out at Davis at Blue Max. Mike DeRosier was out there running everything. That was back in 1994, and I've been broke ever since.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, but
I love this
we
sport.
probably have kept you out of trouble too. So
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. All right, next up, we're going to introduce Andre. I'm going to ruin your last name, Nakkert.
That's good.
Was I
got
even
it.
close?
You got it. Yeah.
I got it.
Hi,
Okay.
folks. I'm Xander Nakkert, and I'm fairly new to outdoor karting. Years ago, I was racing 600cc motorcycles, and then I did K1 indoor last year. I did the championship challenge GP. I had a lot of fun. I did good. I won that, and then halfway through the season, I realized outdoor is where it's at for me. That's the excitement that really got me going. And my main goal here is to get more people on the grid. I like what you do with the podcast. I like how you have a kind of an invitation to get at least one more person into karting, so we can double people karting in Norcal. And I have some things that have helped me, and I'm hoping we'll have more people on the track due to your podcast and things like this.
Perfect. And then later in the show, we'll definitely touch on the topic of the importance of aligning yourself with groups and people that are like-minded. So it's kind of have that workout partner that makes you go to the track.
I'll be plugging our Facebook group where we have 100cc Norcal master drivers, and we're a group of about 20, and we practice together, we race together at Sonoma, and would love to have more people join us, or similar other groups. There's a shifter group. Just get on a track and find a group of folks. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, just get on the track. And you know what? Speaking of, that's a great segue to our next and final guest of the evening, Mike Walden. Good evening.
What's up?
All right. So Andre just said, just get in the cart. And I was watching one of your videos today on, I think it was Instagram or YouTube. And you're standing in your trailer and you're like doing this, hey, how to get in the karting thing. And the comment you made is just get out there and do it. So give our guests, tell us who you are, why are you on the show, and then we'll get to the rest of the panel.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Jason. And what up, NorCal? I'm Mike Walden. I am here as a brand new karter to karting. Been in it for about 3 months. I was doing some K1 speed stuff, and I started to look a little beyond that, look outdoors, and I found some vlogs, but there was nothing around California. But luckily, I found a track and was able to get a cart, and I was kind of impatient on that, so I just got the cart. But it was the choice that I'm really glad I made, because it was kind of like, I hear a lot of dirt bike references, and I kind of try to stay away from that, but it is, to me, has been the biggest thing, is just getting the cart. Once you get the cart, you just keep showing up to the track. It's the initial purchase is it, and so yeah, I just am here as a new karter. Want to get some exposure to the sport, because, like I said, I couldn't find too much on it, and so I started a vlog as well. We'll talk about that in a little while, and yeah, let's go karting.
All right, let's bring everybody up at once. There's everybody. Let's see. Perfect. There we go. So it's, again, for those that are just tuning in, this is really about how to get into karting. Again, Andre and Mike, there are newer karters into the whole karting scene, and I think it's very important to have their input and their perspective of, was it easy to get involved? Was it hard? Was the information hard to find? And again, then we have Lisa Caceres with Race Karts Inc. It's like, if you need to get in a go-kart right now, go to norcalkarters.com and click on Start Karting Now. And Xander Clements with the Kart Chaser drops the Race Karts Inc. logo.
Thank you,
There you go,
Xander.
Xander.
Thank you.
So Race Karts Inc. And yeah, so it's NorCal Karters. We have a resource page, and this has helped kind of kick off a new part of the resource page. Again, how to get into karting. We have a link on there. Click on it, fill out the quick questionnaire. And I had a few come in already this weekend without even soliciting it. I already called and made the follow-up phone calls this morning. So if you're interested in getting your butt into a kart seat and you want to go drive, go to norcalkarters.com right now, fill out the form, and I'll call you in the next 72 hours. But it's, I mean, obviously I'm trying to promote NorCal Karters, but there is no NorCal Karters to promote if we don't grow the sport. And let's start with Mike, because your Mike's live. No pun intended. Being that you're freshly into the sport, what were some of the objections you ran into or obstacles trying to get your butt in the seat?
Tracks, I think, because my first search was Google local, outdoor kart tracks. Indoor always brought you to K1 speed. So once I found a track, I kind of looked up the website, and that was there. Each one of them have a, let's get into karting, get you started. And the first one that I saw was Prairie City. So I went down there and got into just down there talking to people. But it was the availability of kind of any advertisement for a different style other than indoor karting.
Got it. So you just kind of felt that was, besides K1, the outdoor options seemed like non-existent almost.
Correct. I mean, I know I've seen videos on it before. I knew it existed. I had no I had no way to access it. I felt it was difficult to access just getting into it.
Got it. All right. And Andre, same question to you. Again, you're fresh into the sport. First of all, welcome to the sport, you two. Share it with your friends. Bring your buddies out. And for you, what has been some obstacles getting into the outdoor aspect of karting?
Yeah, I found it important to choose the right series. I knew I wanted to race wheel to wheel, and there are a few series available: Sonoma, KPX, Blue Max, Dixon. All these tracks, there is a series that you could race at, right? And I'm in San Francisco. I looked at the options. I decided to not do a travel series, so I ended up going with Sonoma. I was close, and the hard part here was convincing myself this is the class, this is the series where I see myself racing for the next few years. Like, the way I kind of approached it is first few seasons will be really like a ramp up to get better at the momentum game, to be able to carry my speed through corners, and choosing a class, choosing a Kart chassis. It was a little bit tricky because there's a lot of options out there, but there's less classes with enough of a grid size and beginner friendly. So I had to kind of weigh my pros and cons there. Yeah, getting the information, a lot of information out there, but kind of hard to find about. Hey, you purchase a kart. What is a roller? What is a complete? You have to like kind of learn all those terms and understand what are the difference between chassis manufacturers and so on.
Hey, Mike, you're taking notes, right?
Absolutely. They're already ticking down in my head.
There you go.
Perfect. And then all right, I'm gonna bring up Lisa real quick because I know she had to take off early tonight. Actually, I'm gonna leave you in the corner, Lisa. But again, you operate Race Karts Inc. and explain the importance for people just to get in the seat and get out there, because
Here, you can put me in the center, Jason.
I can I'll put there you go.
I'll get out of the way.
Yeah, Xander.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
So for Lisa, you've been around for a while. You've seen it all, and I know you're dealing with the people that jump into a cart and they go, "Oh, I want a 125 shifter. I want this. I want that," and they've never done a single lap in a cart. So how can you speak to that brand new person to properly educate them so they stay in the sport long term?
So when excuse me, when somebody first calls me, calls the office, I talk to them about what their goal is. If they want to just get into karting, they want to learn about it. Some people will say they want to jump right into a shifter cart, and then I ask them, do you want to be shifting 35 times per lap when you haven't really learned any of the basics of a centrifugal clutch cart? And so we have that conversation, and then it's really a quick conversation because they go, oh yeah, no, I want to start at the beginning. I want to learn how to really drive a cart well before I start getting into a shifter. So but the big thing is that we really work with people all the way through. And when somebody comes to the kart school, there's so much for them to learn. And so our program is really an accelerated program. A one-day introduction to karting program is worth about 3 months of just winging it on your own. We go over all the karting, the kart and track safety protocols, the flags, the do's and don'ts, the what ifs, all of that stuff, so that at the end of that one class, people really are ready and can be able to get a cart and join a club and get on track and know that they're going to be as safe as possible because of how we've trained them. So it really is an accelerated program. And I think it's when you talk about where do these customers go, well, 38% of our customers go into some form of kart racing, whether it's KPX, club racing, Sonoma, Rock Sonoma, SCUSA, but we have a really good percentage of people that continue with the racing. And then we have a lot of people that are just doing it as a hobby and having a great time. And I'm always there because this is my passion. It's a business, but I spend hours and hours with people just helping them at any stage, whether it's a week after they come through a kart school or 3 months after or 3 years after. So I've got students that I started with at age 5 that are now 18. Some have moved up to racing cars. I still work with them in car racing also, but there are a lot of people I continue to work with in karting after many years, whether it's race coaching or just the other side of it, the off track stuff, helping them get sponsors, all of that to continue their karting if they are doing it, as they want to kind of move up the ladder and they're going national. So sometimes they need to get sponsors to help get them funded for it.
Yeah, and that's actually a valid point. And I've noticed that you do have a pretty good retention rate for your drivers that stay pretty loyal to you. But
Yes.
Sponsorship. That's a really unique value that you're adding, even just for an introductory karting school. It's like, hey, I can help you here. I can help you do this. I can help you do that.
Right.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I welcome these people, the kids especially, who are just starting out, and I always tell them, call me, let's have a conversation. I'm always available. So and I do get those phone calls, and it's really nice to have the kids, interact with the kids and help them, because I've been there. I've been a kart racer myself. I've been at the professional level. I've been at the professional level of car racing too. So, and I have acquired sponsors for all of that. So I can really help people if they want to keep moving up.
Perfect. And that's what I'm really enjoying about this panel. I mean, we have Mike and Andre that have, collectively, a year and a half in the sport. And then we have, James, Phil, myself, and Xander. We don't really need to add up the years that are there.
No, let's not do that.
But and Lisa, I know you got to go to your appointment, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
Well, thank you, Jason, and thank you, everybody. And feel free to call me and just look up. I know it's not on the screen right now, but if you just look up Race Karts Inc., Google that, and you'll get our phone numbers. And I'm happy to talk with you.
Xander from Kart Chaser has you set up. It's right there.
Anything for you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lisa. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye, Lisa.
Good night.
Thank
Bye,
you, Lisa.
Bye.
Oh, sorry. I removed Phil.
Uh-oh. Come on, Jason. You can do better.
I got rid of Phil.
Get it together, man.
We no longer have a flag marshal. It's just chaos.
Yeah,
Just chaos.
Lisa dropped way before I could hit remove, so I dropped Phil. So again, for those that are just tuning in, this is again how to get into karting. We're trying to start at the beginning of, okay, where do you go? We just had Lisa Caceres on from Race Karts Inc. Again, I keep going back to Andre and Mike because they are the new guys. But we're gonna go to Xander. And Xander, you've actually, that's a terrible area for you.
Here, I can change the camera to go up.
I just made it bigger for you.
Cool.
But you have a pretty stacked resume when it comes to the karting industry side. You've worked for tracks, you've done the kart rental thing. Now obviously you're Kart Chaser, and what you're doing with Kart Chaser, Tavish McGrain, just give Xander control. Sorry. But what you're
my
doing
roommate
with
from
racing,
that's Tavish, my roommate from Rock, Italy, 2017. I haven't talked to Tavish in a minute or seen him. But
well, you need to come to California. Everyone wants you on the West Coast.
I know.
And Tavish supplies the paddock with free beer at the end of the race day.
Well, that sounds great because I'll be legal now in the States. I was barely legal over there.
Yeah. But so I mean, you've worked you've done the kart rentals, you've worked in the kart shops, you've again, it's just pretty much anything you can do in karting, you've done it. And so, and again, what you're doing with the Kart Chaser thing is a whole different level, which I love it. It's you're bringing karting to people that would never know it even existed. And again, so that's Kart Chaser, kartchaser.com. It's, if you don't know what it is, just go look it up now. But talk to us about getting the guy into the sport on day one, because you have that experience.
Yeah. So, my background, like you said, and I'll briefly kind of touch on that to give some context. So, I jokingly said earlier I was pitching to my parents PowerPoints from very early on, full on ones that even my teachers would get excited in school, and I'd end up pitching to my class, but they didn't care whatsoever. I'd get teased over it. But no, I researched really, really hard as a kid. Learned as much as I could online at different shops and what was available, and if there was probably an American page or shop or site or something back in 2008, 2009. I probably looked through that as a kid over and over again, from video to article to everything. And I think that, helped me down the line with a lot of different stuff later. And it's something I still get to draw on. And so, then we finally did get in through the indoor karting scene. What was able to kind of push it over the edge for me to get into the outdoor stuff was, my background was, my mom's works in IT and my dad's an English major. With my dad was a NASCAR fan, and I don't know exactly where the full passion came from. And I don't know if they do either, but we'd watch the races as a kid. But I wanted to get in really bad, and the big fear they had obviously was like, well, not only do we really not have the money we think to spend to buy the cart outright, especially a brand new one, and go racing, but we don't know how much that running cost will be. And we don't really know much about go-karts in general. So, are we going to need to hire a professional mechanic or a shop to take care of it? And then that's an added cost. And there was just a lot we didn't know. So what was able to kind of push it over for me was when we did the indoor karting leagues, which is a quick shout out to the Pro Cup karting guys at Andretti's with this little trophy here. I won a couple championships and that stuff. And when I got to the point where I'd won the top junior championship, it was like, okay, well, he's serious about this at 11 years old. Like, he does really want to do it. It's not a fad, because I played baseball and soccer as well growing up. And I finally got my dad to come out with me to take me out, I should say, to the local track, which was Barnesville, Georgia, one of the old school go-kart tracks around. We went to a club race there, and we found a family that we had met previously through the indoor karting scene. And having known karting now and how good and nice everyone is at club races, that you can go talk to anybody, because everyone, I think, is in the same boat that wants the sport to grow, and want to have more drivers on track. They're happy to talk to you, but it can still be intimidating. So when we saw them there, we knew that, all right, we could trust these people. These were good people. These were old friends of ours we've made over the last year and a half of doing indoor karting and camps and stuff. And so it was like, well, if we just buy what they have and we can pit next to them and learn from them. And they were really great. And it's a kid who's doing IMSA now, Dylan Murray, and his father, David, and they were really, really helpful, and a bunch of other families I ended up meeting. So we started racing local racing there really quickly. And then I did sim racing on the side, and I would stream my sim races in the leagues I'd organize, and I would commentate them. And so I got kind of bored during the race day because there were like 10 classes. So I went and asked them, because they didn't really have an announcer on the PA, but I'd heard them use it. So I was like, can I go announce at 12 years old? And even with my pre-puberty voice, people seemed to at least like it enough, and they let me announce. And so I did that for fun in between the sessions. We wouldn't have to work on the go-kart. And then I did that. And while we were racing club for about a year and a half, and wanted to start doing bigger races, as I got to meet more real life karting friends that did sim racing, that were racing the national racing. And my club turnout kind of died off a little bit. So between all that, we started doing the nationals more, and then WK Regional came to town, and that's kind of kickstarted my announcing career, because the local club recommended me. So then at around 16, 17, I was traveling around 25, 30 weekends a year, and moving my school schedule around it so I could go leave on Thursday afternoon and come back Monday morning to announce. And then on the side, if I didn't have a travel weekend, I got a job as my first ever part-time job at Atlanta Motorsports Park, working there as a flagger, and then I ended up race directing their club series a few months in, and I was instructing their karting schools, which, just like at least I had with Race Karts Inc., the karting schools was the biggest lead gen. And that's really one I wanted to kind of lead into, is I did those, and, same thing. As soon as you get someone in a go-kart, by the end of the day, it's really not hard to sell them. If they can normally afford to do a couple $100 for an arrive and drive experience for the day, they could probably do some 206 or 100cc club racing on a monthly deal once they get over the initial investment of buying a used or new go-kart. And so when I would do those schools as an instructor, out of a school of 8 or 10 students, one was normally ready to buy right then, kid or adult, and the rest of them all loved it. It just, some of them were just doing it as a cool experience to do. And it's a really good model as well for all shops and tracks, if they can do it, to do those arrive and drive deals, because you can do, half of whatever your student size is, half your fleet, and you can reuse the fleet. You don't have to put new tires on. You can run them on motors that are old and losing a little bit of horsepower. And once they're in, then they can buy the good stuff. But did that. So then that kind of exposed me to track management. And at 16, 17, when you're traveling, it sounds fun, but you're traveling with a lot of people older than you, and you can't go out to the bars or the restaurants or anything. So you're not really exploring the cities. My life outside of the announcing booth, which was meant, as a single announcer, you're by yourself the whole day, calling all the races nonstop. Most of the time, the races get cut into lunch break a little bit, which obviously Phil knows as well as a flagman. Sometimes you get stuck out there by yourself the whole day. So I'd be wanting to do stuff, but I wasn't really having a lot of fun at home, or I'd say at at hotels with McDonald's and doing my homework. So I got an offer at 18 when I was starting to get into my undergrad a little bit early, to go down when Eric Jones from Miami East and GoPro Motorplex bought AMR Motorplex in Miami. And he's like, hey, I could use some people down there. And he ended up making me assistant manager, which was really cool, full-time job. So I picked everything up. I promised my mom I'd still finish my undergrad, which I did. And so they were happy. I finished that online, and I got to work in track management full-time for 3 years, along with doing the announcing and doing coaching at different races on the side on my off weekend. And so, through that and through Atlanta and then through the shops that I got to drive for, especially at the end of my driving career, I say the end, I'm hoping it's not the end. I'm still doing some races this year, but at least the end of just trying to full-time run national stuff and, bring customers to the shop and work at the shop, volunteer my time so I could get a little bit of help back from the shop to sponsor me. I got to see a lot of different perspectives really, really early on in the sport, from the series promotion and the announcing. You got to see the inside of every series, the tracks and all that. And so that's what kind of led me to a lot of seeing, I think, I won't say holes, but room for growth and room for potential and gaps that maybe hadn't been filled in the sport at a younger age than I think most would. So when I was finished with my degree at 20 and pushing 21, and I'd been there for a couple of years at Homestead, and I was like, well, I feel like I've enjoyed this job. This job's been great. I could stay here if I wanted, but I could also, move up to, doing other things. Do I want to work outside of karting and make karting or racing my hobby? Do I want to stay here and just enjoy living in South Florida once I'm old enough to go out, which was fun, I will admit. But the third thing was Kart Chaser, and it was, well, there's two things I want to make better, and I want to build the club scene, and I want to make it a little bit easier for national guys to be able to continue to race if they don't have the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to do cars, because we already have kind of this internal economy of our own manufacturers. And even in the grand scheme of things, you could drop the prices of some national events and get some sponsors to put a small payout, and it could be really sustainable for guys to run, just like how grassroots oval track racing is in the States. So working backwards from what an event was like that, I figured the first thing we needed to do was to build out the stars that we had and give us some more media coverage. So you'd maybe buy a go-kart based on what you saw. And just in the same way, F1 and NASCAR drive people into karting or into being car guys by being the top and doing a good job of promotion for the whole genre of motorsports. I figured we could do that with the national side of karting, because there is more money there, obviously, than anywhere else, and promote it. And so we started, making just video edits. Then about a year ago, we got an opportunity to do our first ever live full broadcast with the Miami Grands, which was a really cool opportunity with Kevin Harvick and Hunt Brothers Pizza and Eric Jones with Miami East. And then that led us to this year, where now we're doing about 25 weekends of doing live broadcasting. But the video edits, I thought, did a good job, which was cool, of, really fleshing out the drivers, and then also having a race remix or race edit recap in the video at the end. So you're building up your superstars, your heroes, your villains, your guys you like, your guys you don't like, and who they are. And you kind of get to see them in this raw conversational format behind the scenes, and then you get to see how the race happened. And that was cool. And now this year, I'm kind of tuning that format a little bit, which was the big news that we dropped on Kart Chaser about an hour and a half ago, that we're kind of turning that series to be a little more like Drive to Survive. I don't like that term as much, because there's a little more manufactured drama and reality TV than I think there needs to be, because I think there's more than enough out there. But a real series I drew inspiration from was on YouTube. You can look it up, called Moto Spy, which Red Bull's YouTube channel does, that focuses on the Supercross series. And so we renamed our first 2 years of the video edits we did to Paddock Pass. And we've been filming that from January at all of the 15 U.S. major national races that we go to, which are the main 15 that have the same cast and crew go. So if you're talking a full-time national season, a guy's running about 15 events, change out the Florida Winter Tour or SCUSA Winter Series for Challenge of the Americas. But we have the Florida
Do you
Winter
want to bring
Tour
up that graphic?
and all that. Yeah. If you want to throw it, you can see. So that's the big news that we have tonight. So this is the first 2 slides that we have. So we're going to drop episodes of it. It'll be about 20 to 25-minute episodes on YouTube, free to watch outside of our membership subscription. 1 episode per race weekend, and it focuses on 4 to 5 of the top different drivers in the field. And then so you're behind the scenes getting kind of vlog access to their pit area and the hardships they go through and see their personality. And then as the video goes on, it'll have the race edits in them. So I'm really excited about that. We have the first episode coming on Friday, but I figured the first thing we could do to kind of get the sport bigger was media and video exposure that, could kind of, just mimic what all pro sports do. Is like, if I want to make, have a pro level of karting where guys at, the 15-year-old me that realized very quickly after a few calls from the credit card companies of the balances my parents had run on me that we weren't anywhere near going to be able to do, any kind of upper level car racing. But if you work really hard and you market yourself well on social media to build a following, that you can get Burrell and Tony Kart and the US teams and stuff to see value in hiring you to drive their karts and go win races, because the exposure they'll get off that, and if the race itself can have a payout structure that works out good. So like I said, working backwards from a fan-based event like that, I thought the first step was trying to build the superstars up that would fill those stands. And that's a kind of a big driving force of everything we do with Kart Chaser. And Kart Chaser is the first of a few projects that hopefully over the next 5 to 10 years, my goal is to launch. We have a lot more that I want to do. But yeah, that's a long synopsis. I know it took a lot longer. You said you and James are the ones that are going to ramble. I could ramble all day too, but I hope that gives some context to a little bit of everything we do and my background, obviously. And so I try to make sure that I still get to club races as much as I can. And talk to everyone that comes up to me, or I can go out of my way to talk to. From, obviously it's easy when you're in one little bubble to forget, what it's like to be a new guy. And that's why it's great. I think that you have, Andre and Mike on here of newer guys in and club and regional level guys that, that their struggles, their questions, their comments, their thoughts are obviously different than when I go and talk to Ryan Norberg and Marian Kremers and AJ Myers and Danny Formal, of what they need and, what they're frustrated about in the sport and what they wish were better. And so I try to keep myself as well-rounded as I can from the stuff that I've worked in the past and then what I'm doing now.
So real quickly, because Tavish is blowing us up on the text line, is this a Xander promo show? It's not. But
sorry.
It's not a.
It's not supposed to
promo,
be. I'm
but
sorry.
For those that, Xander's really helped me out a lot in the background with like the Norcal live stuff. He's helped me out with a lot of tech questions. James from Kart Pulse. It's him and I have hours talking about stuff I have no interest in. Like if it rhymes with IT, I don't care. And when it gets into that, so Xander and James have been instrumental with Norcal Karters and getting it, some of the technology ahead. And you don't have to answer this, Xander, but you and I have talked about this in the past, where you used to piggyback off of jobs. You would go to a race working one job, and then at night you were doing Kart Chaser. And that was the only way that at the time you could make it pencil out. For you to do a typical race weekend, do you want to talk about that cost? Because people have approached me and says, "Oh, you need to do what Kart Chaser is doing." Oh, and it's like, and today when we promoted the show, people were saying we need you on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not going to say we don't need you out here, because I think what you're doing is great. But what is that number? What is that number to get you out here on the West Coast for one race?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
$1 million.
That's a sales pitch, right?
Grand Nationals in Reno.
Yeah. No, we get obviously requests all the time of us to go to different places. And, you can't see because I turn my desk around, so I have a little better background, but I'm just in a bedroom in a 4-bedroom townhouse in a college town with a couple of my buddies. Cause when I wanted to launch this, I knew I wasn't going to make a lot of money for a little bit of time. And so I needed to get out of South Florida's high cost of living really quickly. But I didn't want to move back in with my parents because I have 4 younger siblings and they're doing the traditional route of going to college at the right time and going through high school. And I want to make sure they can have at least somewhat of their own bedroom, because we were a 3-bedroom house with 7 people. But yeah, it's expensive. The biggest cost for any series is the same for us, and that's really labor. The equipment's expensive. I don't want to downplay that. I mean, we've invested thousands and thousands of dollars as we've been able to slowly bootstrap our show, to buy stuff. So we're not renting nearly as much. Funny enough, James was instrumental in that first weekend that we broadcasted, because him and I think, had a couple multi-hour long Zoom calls of, okay, this guy wants you to pull off a live stream. How the hell do you do that? And what do you need? And I think our first weekend, our rental bill for equipment was probably around $4,500 for 5 days of use.
And that was just your rental bill.
That's just the rental bill. So then you add in, your realistic rates of, and I, knowing on the other side of, as a kid, you go into these weekends, how intensive it is to work a 12-hour, 14-hour, 16-hour day, and wanting to make this a viable business. I don't want to rely on volunteer labor. I want to take care of everyone that we bring out, and we pay them, well. And so, if you have someone at 150, 200, 250, 300 a day, day rate, which is a pretty casual day rate for someone traveling for a couple days. And then you add in, let's say, half a hotel room, if they're willing to spend a night in the hotel with somebody else, and you get a double room. Your hotel rooms with tax, or you can get them cheap, sometimes under $100, but on average you're 100 to 125, depending on the city. So you divide that in half over 3-4 nights, right? And very quickly, to have someone for one person, whether that's a camera guy or announcer or back end guy, could be $1,500, $2,000 you spend on them when you buy an airplane ticket for $300, $400 or a couple hundred in gas, because we do stuff all over the country. And I try to, make our crew versatile. And if I can find local help that's interested and wants to work, we'll bring them in. I'm all for bringing racers behind the broadcast camera, because they know what to look at. But I mean, just off labor, you could easily run a bill up $10,000, $12,000, and just by having, because for our production, what we're doing, I'm a big believer that I'd rather have 2 manned cameras than 10 stock cameras, where you can zoom in and follow the fighting. So we normally try to run at least 3 broadcast cameras. I like having a multi-person booth, like a TV broadcast should be. I think that's important. So having multiple announcers. I like being able to do pit reporters, which is an extra upper tier that we do at all the major races, the SCUSAs, the USPKSs, the Rock Winter Tours. They're 150, 200, 250, 300 entry races with a high enough multi-day entry fee that they can justify to help out. But even they're not footing the whole bill, because for a series to spend $10,000, $12,000 on a weekend, or 15 or whatever on a stream, at the size of the sport right now, there's just not the return, and even then from the sponsors and stuff. And so that's why we're structured the way that we are. We have kind of a 4-pronged revenue model where it all adds up to just barely above break even on a race weekend, where we have the series cover a good chunk. We sell advertising for the commercials in between. We'll sell our merchandise and t-shirts. We do limited designs all the time, and that's a nice little boost. And then we have the membership model where I didn't want to put it behind a paywall, because I think that defeats the purpose of building the sport up, which, like I said, is our core mission of us. But we do it in a hybrid UFC boxing style, where just the main events are behind that paywall of $10 a month. And so we have the subscription monthly, we have the advertising monthly, and then we have apparel sales, and then the event kicks in, and it all adds up to kind of covering an 8 to 10 person crew between announcers, camera guys, interviewees, a merch booth salesman, which I normally rotate my interviewees in to do. All in all, yeah, it can get expensive just off the labor, the lodging, the airfare, and that's if you already own the equipment. And I'd love to say that I've got a, big family pocket of $500,000 I can blow to grow up the sport, but I don't. If I did, I'd at least be living on my own a little bit, or being able to do more than just put a bunch of boxes in my closet of all the equipment and store everything under my bed. But it's a lot, and I'd love to get out there, and a lot of series get a little sticker shock from that price, and I totally get it, because
that's why I brought it up, because we get the
difference.
question a lot too. It's like, oh, can you guys do this? Can you guys do that? And it's money. Part of it's money. Another part is just labor.
Yeah.
We want to be able to have a camera, like at the Sonoma stuff, walking around the pits and doing that. Well, now there's another guy behind the camera, and get like you hit the nail on the head. And I want to move away from that topic so we get back on the how to get in the karting. But you hit the nail on the head when you said you want to pay your guys enough so they want to come back and you have a solid crew. Because if you get a bunch of volunteers only last a certain amount of time before they realize, like, wait, I'm not getting paid. There's a lot of time for my personal life, etc. And I think all of us can relate. If you've been in karting for more than 6 months, there's some things you start weighing out. It's like, oh, wait, I'm not getting paid to do that. I'm not getting and if you start losing your staff and you spend more time finding people, then your quality goes down.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure, and again, it's even paying them, right? It's not like we can afford to put, a whole crew on salary for the year. Even as many events as we have now, I've got a couple guys that are on like basically a retainer because I have them so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have young people like myself working with me and for me because, outside of when a guy's got a 9 to 5 and wants to come and spend his 2 days off working at the racetrack, and that's hard to find too, which is a lot of what these series rely on. It's no different, it's the same. SCUSA, they spend a lot of time hard to find people. Rock the same, Rock, has invested a lot. I mean, they bring the entire Utah Motorsports campus crew to their races for the Florida Winter Tour and for Rock Vegas, which is a really, really kind of harmonious relationship because that's a racetrack that shuts down during those months. So, they're able to kind of help both. It allows the track to kind of keep their seasonal workers where normally they'd be rehiring every year, which is a whole other discussion. And then the series to bring them in. But yeah, finding people's tough. It's a hard work day. Phil can tell you. I mean, you're flagging out there in the elements. I mean, my broadcast guys are in the same deal. They're right out there with you. The only difference is, they aren't having to work even as hard as Phil is, which is having to go run after and lift the go-karts for kart recovery. I mean, those days are long. So yeah, I don't want to get too far off as well. I want to make sure we keep it here on what we're here for and not talk too much over this all, but it's a lot. And yeah, I'd love to get out West. I'd love to, I've known Andy Saisman for a long time. He goes back with that same Italy trip I met him with Tavish a while back. And there's a funny story that goes along with that too. But he's, I'd love to get out there for those events, but the event has to be big enough to draw that revenue because it's not like I can show up and say, you know what, we're going to have 100,000 viewers, over the course of the weekend. I'd love to get to that point where eventually I'm paying these series to go there and they're getting revenue of a TV contract coming, like how the pendulum swings in a regular TV state, right? Like SCUSA had to pay to go on CBS Sports, but then on the flip side, NASCAR, the NFL, the MLB, they get paid by the TV networks, and that's a big part of their revenue. It's just it's just a switch. So
and that's why I think it's
when we get
really
to that
important
point, we can do that. Like if we got to that point where we don't need the series to kick in and we're able to bring our own revenue in and kind of pick where we go, then the options open up dramatically. We're just 4 months in.
Yeah. Well, keep up the hard work. And I'm going to bring James up real quick because James has a unique perspective as well. We talked about James helping us out with, a lot with like Norcal Karters, and Xander gave him a shout out for helping out with the Kart Chaser stuff. But James, I mean, you've been around the sport for a while. You've also opened up and you started operating some ice karting stuff over the past couple of years.
I've done all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
What's that?
I've done all kinds of stuff at this point. Yeah.
He just can't help himself.
So
he's a total addict.
That should be my new shirt. It's just like addicted to go-karts.
He's just addicted.
So, but I mean, you got the shirt right there, Epic Kart Racing.
Right. I figured I'd wear it.
You're dealing with that brand new guy that's getting into the sport, and you're dealing with the guy that, I'm going to go check out a go-kart. Granted, yours is on ice, but what are some of those things that you see as a industry guy and dealing with that brand new person? If someone's listening and they go, I can't do that, what would you tell them?
Well, I guess it depends on what they're thinking that they can't do. Like they can't go ice karting, or they can't do competition karting, or what?
I would say almost all of it. Like it's, where do they start? Can they just hop in an ice cart and go? How do you interact with those people when you talk to them?
So, I mean, karting on ice was an answer to that question. We make it in the sport. If you want to talk about rants, I mean, we make it way too hard for people to get involved, especially as racers. We're well intentioned, but we make it too complex for folks to get involved. At the end of the day, we sell fun, and fun is kind of easy to sell. Like everybody, who do you know who doesn't want to have fun? Do you know anybody who doesn't want to have fun? I don't know anybody. I love to have fun. So we sell fun, you know. I think when we get down into the rabbit hole of like, oh, you know, all the NASCAR racers and Formula One drivers started in karting and all this stuff, it's like, I mean, that's true and that's great, but most people in the general populace don't care much about that, right? It doesn't matter, but fun matters to them. So sell them on fun and start there. So karting on ice it's a rental go-kart track, right? It's just like you go up to AMR or whatever, you come up, you pay, you get your briefing, you get your gear, you go out, you drive. Hopefully you don't crash too much. We give you some tips if you need them. You have a great time, you go home. But then, you know, if you're talking about maybe moving to the next step where somebody buys their own equipment, stuff like that, I think where a lot of folks get caught up, and this is another thing with the karting on ice approach that we did, was we actually intentionally, even though like my background, let me go back with my origin story, my background in karting is competitive kart racing. It is based on Formula One and the ladder and all of that stuff, but that's not where I'm at mentally at all right now. Right now, I'm back to the simplicity of like just the fun and the pure satisfaction of driving a go-kart, right? Which again, it appeals to everybody. So that's why I thought, you know, let's put it on ice. That makes sense, right? You get lots of angle, lots of drift, and even if you're slow, you're still going to have a great time. If you're slow on an indoor track, it's probably not a great time. So that was really the angle that we were coming from, was just to kind of keep it easy and accessible for people and sell the fun part of it. Don't make it complex.
Sell the fun.
Right. I mean, that's what we sell fun.
Yeah.
And we go down the rabbit hole of how serious it is. And it's important that we sell the fun also because competitive kart racing is very difficult. It's not easy. And I think a lot of people come into the sport, and we've all seen it, like they think that it's going to be easy, and it's not. It's actually one of the toughest, most competitive sports in auto racing that you can be involved with when you take it to the highest level. So usually, you know, my approach again is to look at karting as that it's many things to many people. It can be competition. It can be a place to play around with engines and think with engines and chassis. It can be a place to develop your skills if you want to be a professional race driver. There's a broad spectrum of things that you can do with a go-kart. And so that's where my approach has been, is just to kind of start with the fun and then go from there, not overcomplicate it.
So we're gonna put Mike on the spot because you were nodding your head a lot during James saying, "Hey, we're selling fun." So
That's it. And I jumped right into it with both feet because of fun. And I liked what he was saying with how it's different for everybody. A go kart, you can do different stuff with a go kart. Different avenues with it. You know, if you like tinkering, like you said, or you just like driving. Absolutely, I definitely agree with that. And then the aspect of the difficulty. Yeah, that was one thing that definitely hit home for me. It was
when you say difficulty, the physical aspect, or which part was difficult?
Yeah, it was there's a realization of the physical aspect too. That's a whole nother animal, but the difficulty and just the competition level, like he was saying, we kind of do make it difficult naturally because we want to be the one step up. We want to be, maybe they didn't get that, you know, preparation in and we did. Maybe they didn't know about this change and we do. So that kind of naturally hides it from somebody that's kind of has no idea to it and is looking for any kind of help on it. And we do that to ourselves a little bit, but I don't think it's so much on purpose as much as is a racing deal.
So when you got
Right.
involved, did you get involved to go collect trophies or for fun?
Yeah, so it was fun for me. I started with a trophy in my hand. Like we said earlier,
Right. I
started going to the K1 speeds and I went to the challenge event, and the first one I ended up with a trophy. So that was a blast. I honestly took a good look at it and didn't expect one when I was going out, especially to this outdoor, because I knew the people have been doing this for years, since they're 5 years old and everything. So I knew that much. I wasn't going to be out there, you know, showing them the what for and just tearing them up. And it was a realization that It's a lot. It's more difficult than I thought. You
It's
got to
more
have a
difficult
lot
than you
to.
thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Karting is one of those things that's simple, but it's not easy,
It,
right?
and
Like
that's hard to put
especially
in.
in a especially in a non-shifter kart, it looks like, oh well, you only have a brake, an accelerator, and steering wheel, and that's it. Oh, it must be easy. Nope. And you only have to look at the broadcast that Xander did from GoPro last year, right? Look at some of the top names that are racing in there, and they're not nowhere, but they're trying really hard, and they are not pulling away from the rest of the field. You've got IndyCar drivers, and in the past you've got Indianapolis 500 winners, and they're putting it all down. So
yeah, I mean, you look at Supernats this year. Newgarden missed the cut for the LCQ. He was in the bottom 15 out of the 90 or so in X30 Senior, so he didn't make it into the LCQ. Will Power, I think he probably could have made the main in Senior Pro, but he had a wreck in one of the heats, and he drove. I think he finished about 14th in the LCQ, so he's about 10 out of the transfer spot. And then, Kyle Larson, which granted, I mean, that guy is known as like one of the top 5 drivers in the world in his generation, if not the best.
yeah,
And he'd never grown up driving go-karts. He'd run at GoPro Motorplex a handful of times years ago when it first opened, when all the NASCAR guys bought go-karts there. And he came back through Chevy's R&D, or not R&D, sorry, Chevrolet's road course development program. And that's something that's helped co-managed by Scott Speed. So then that brought the connection into Speed Concepts Racing with Mike Speed. And then he's like, Kyle Larson's a racer. He's like, oh, there's a race coming up in October. And they're like, well, you're in
Norcal, so we can mention them.
Yeah, they're
the
awesome.
Speed family is based in, they're no longer based in Norcal, but their roots were here.
And so he had a freaking NASCAR Cup playoff race at Texas on Sunday, but it was still kind of under the COVID conditions where they ran one day. So he showed up and ran USPKS Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think he ran about 10th to 15th on practice day, and then qualified not so great, like in the 20s of like a 50 car field. And he was in the Hornet's nest, so he got like spun both times. But according to Mike and Alex, he kept going to the outside because he's a dirt guy and he kept wanting to rip the top. And then the wrecks go to the outside. So, but I mean, that's just another testament, like James said. I mean, this is so hard to win in at every level. I mean, I tell people like club racing is still travel ball. It is still like select league stuff. If you want your rec leagues, that's rental karting arrive and drive leagues. When you get to like the club racing stuff, I tell that to families all the time. Like, it's still unbelievably hard at any level, or not any level, but any class to win a club race. It is crazy. Well, okay, kid karts. It shouldn't be, but it is.
It is
for different reasons, for vastly different reasons. Oh my gosh, yeah. But that, I think that's the biggest thing too when you talk about people getting into the sport. Right? There's the how-to, right, and then there's the managing expectations, which is huge, and that's understanding that, like, if you do want to race, this is extremely hard. I mean, this is a discipline that the basics obviously carry back and forth to car racing and driving a car, but a lot doesn't. Setting up a go-kart is completely different. There's so much adjustability. There's obviously a lot of factors, and that's very daunting. But if you come into it looking like, I want to have some fun, I enjoy driving, and you're just open and willing, then you spend your money on practice days. And that's why it's so important to, like Lisa said at the beginning, get people started in the slower classes, your 206 and your 100cc, because you can spend less money on the equipment and you can spend more money on practice passes and filling the gas tank up. And that's crucial.
Right. And that's a perfect segue to bring Andre up, because he's doing the thumbs up. And I think that's a very overlooked part, especially if you've not been in a go-kart before. Step one, go find a place. And again, go to NorcalKarters.com. I will put you in touch with the right people in your area to get you in a kart. But Andre, when you were looking at karting and when you started karting, was it for trophies or was it for fun?
It was for fun. Yeah, I got to say, Xander, that was a good call out to listeners here. Just get out there and have fun. And my thing was, it was COVID, and dude, I was going nuts. Like, I'm sitting in my house working from home, and it just wasn't fun, right? Nobody's going out, seeing anybody. And it's been a long time since I raced anything. I did some motorcycle racing But now my motorcycle riding is just messing around on my supermoto. It's not really, it wasn't really cutting it for the adrenaline. You can't, I don't like to go crazy fast on the street. So what I ended up doing, I went to K1 and I realized to have this monthly race, the Challenge GP, and that hit the spot. Wheel to wheel racing hit the spot. And then I realized I kind of want to have my own chassis that I know will always be good, and it's on me if it's not good. I like the idea that I can blame myself. That's part of what I like about karting is it is something you can get good at and you can manage on your own in the beginning. You don't need to have a giant team, right? In a car, even to get a car on a trailer, might need another person if you're not that good at it, right? With a kart, you can do most of it alone in the beginning. And yeah, it's for fun for me. It's to like basically go and have that adrenaline rush, and it's so much fun, folks. It's so much fun. So I have a couple of things I wanted to share. I really liked what Lisa said before. I think doing a school, and there's a few schools, but I would definitely reach out to Lisa and Jason and get yourself into one of those. Talk to people. I heard this a lot. I heard choose a platform or a chassis and engine combination that is well supported in your local track. And I stand by that. I did that myself. I learned the same thing in motorcycle racing. I didn't want to choose an exotic motorcycle that nobody used just because it looked cool or something. I wanted something that I can get parts for. Same thing with karting. You might want to choose something where others can help you do the setup because they have that same chassis or engine, right? And then apart from me, the reason why I'm on the show, there's so much information out there for free, and that really helped me because it is tough knowing what the options are. Once you know the options and you're able to make a choice, things get a lot easier. So making that choice, getting to that point quicker, I think is what moves the needle for people. And to get to that point, talk to people. Go to Facebook, go to, I don't know where the kids are, Instagram, but find the groups of racers who congregate and practice together, have fun together, grab a beer on Saturday night or whatever it is, and join that group. It's free. They will literally tell you how to get started. And our group, Norcal Master 100cc Kart Racers, we're on Facebook. Come and join us. And like today, there's like 45 messages just today talking about yesterday's practice. And a handful of us were at the track at Sonoma yesterday practicing. And I wasn't there. I have a rib injury, broke my rib, so I'm a little bit out right now. But a lot of us go and practice together. And there are other groups for shifter karts. If you're crazy enough to go into a shifter without experience, at least go and join those groups and get that info from there. And my last point is I like to model my behavior on somebody who I know does things right. And when I say model, I mean, you could go and talk to an experienced racer, ask them if they're willing to let you observe them during a practice or a race weekend. I did that. And because I have an injury right now, I did it over a few race weekends. I learned so much. And like Xander said in the beginning, karting is an extended family. So everybody wants more people in karting. Just go and talk to them. They will open up and they'll basically help you get started in the way that suits you the most. So I found this amazing racer, Billy Cleveland, who let me observe his Challenge of the Americas race a couple of weekends ago. His family was there. It was great. It was really inspirational to see how Billy would methodically go and get his kart ready for his qualifying, for his race. And that kind of shows you where, I want to go, right? I want to get to that level, and people who are there, they're willing to help you. All you got to do is ask and just be a reasonable, nice person, and they'll let you do that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because That's a great point. If you don't know how to get into karting, just get to the track and, like you said, start shadowing people. And I mean, Billy Cleveland, I mean, he's a legend. I mean,
What a
it's
beast.
yeah, I mean, he's
That
a
guy's
real legend.
unreal.
Yeah, no, that's some great insight. Yeah, just get out to the track, start asking questions, talk to people. And I know, Andre, you and I have been talking for about a year now. If you're in the industry and someone like Andre comes up to you and you're in the middle of the race weekend, just politely let these guys know, it's like, hey, I really can't talk to you right this second, because I think all of us can attest to it. At the race weekend, stuff's always happening. I mean, all of us have people coming up and, hey, can we do this? Can we do? It's like they don't know what you're doing. If I'm at Sonoma, I'm probably running to the bathroom and trying to run right back to the tower. So I just politely asked Andre, he's like, hey, follow up with me Monday or give me a call on Monday. I can't do anything right this second. And the only reason I bring it up is if you're in the industry and someone comes up to you, don't blow them off without explaining why you're blowing them off. Because that new guy, he's just excited. Like, he thinks he's going to grab a helmet and go jump in that race right now. He doesn't realize the world championships are going on. And we're going to blow these guys out of the water and not explain why, because they don't know, okay, my guy's late getting up to the grid for qualifying, and this is going to ruin his weekend. So as a team principal, have that conversation. I'd love to talk to you, but call me Monday.
Yeah,
I'm glad
had
you
some
brought
really
that up
good
about trying
experiences
to
with that.
shadow Billy Cleveland and stuff, and just try to find teams out there. I have a question for Phil, because we were talking about the indoor stuff, and Mike and Andre brought it up, and we haven't let Phil talk too much yet.
I've been listening. Xander and everybody's had a lot of good stuff to say, so hopefully I can keep up.
You'll be fine, because this is in your wheelhouse. So, as the head flagman for multiple series, a lot of tracks, not just NorCal, you're traveling nationally now. And you've been around the sport for a long time. You've seen a lot of racing.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike has talked about it. Andre talked about the indoor stuff. Xander did the recreational karts. James does the ice karts. You and I have both seen it at our local races where we get these indoor kids coming out to the kart track. We want them there. Like, we really do. But you and I have both seen it. Their racecraft is completely different than outdoor karting. Mm-hmm. So what would you say that indoor kid, where we don't want to blow, or just indoor anybody, we don't want them not to come back. But as the head flagman, where you see a lot of racing, where's some direction you can give those indoor guys looking to make that transition on how to do it in a manner that's not going to get them ended up in the bail?
Well, like most everybody said tonight, that just getting them in the cart to begin with, be it indoor, or some places have the outdoor rental carts also. And some of those places have the facility where you can buy a go-kart and have people that help you out and kind of get you directed in the motor package and chassis direction that is suitable for you. And most of the time, I'd like to see somebody do indoor or outdoor rental kart first, see if you enjoy it. And I've told everybody, once you get your ass in the seat, you're usually going to want to go buy a go-kart. And then you're going to want to buy it, and then you're going to want to go fast. And so if you're going to want to go fast, you're going to have a lot of things that have to line up. As far as if you got a family has to support that. If you want to go fast, you're going to have to be able to pay for it, and you're going to have dedicated a lot of time into it. And that's where the family comes into supporting you, because you're going to be spending a lot of time at the track driving, and it's practice. It's seat time is what I would tell every new driver, is get seat time. If you want to go do indoor stuff for a little while and then maybe venture out, come like Andre was saying, going out and hang with somebody on the weekend and just kind of see, and maybe somebody has an extra cart that is willing to let you drive it. And this is all like club level type stuff. And so there's a lot of people that are very kart family friendly and are willing to help out just to get you out there. And so once you get out there, then you're going to want to get something and then go fast. So you want to be able to get seat time. And I always tell everybody seat time, seat time, seat time. And you can see it with a lot of these kids, especially in kid kart, junior ones, junior twos. You can tell how well some of them are doing right away. Some of them have a little bit more racecraft than others right out of the bat. And sometimes a parent can make a situation not good for the kid as far as, or just not even a parent, but just the people around you sometimes kind of be a negative influence on you and you don't want to do it. So kind of hang with the people that you are cool with, and more than likely you're going to find several of them that will help you out and get you dialed in. Even with the kid carts, the parents, they kind of talk to one another. There's a few of them that I know that they kind of get everybody on the same page, and it takes at club level, it's a little different than when you go up to like SCUSA or Rock or whatever, that kind of stuff. They kind of tend to hold stuff in a little bit more because you're talking very minimal amount of time in between those guys. When you're at club level, you're helping these guys out. You just want to have them go out and have a good time. When I'm out on the track at club racing, I'll run out there and help them, fire them up. I'll put a chain on, get them back rolling again just so they get their seat time. And that's the kind of stuff that some people, I don't necessarily, I just go do it. But some people will see that and be like, oh, that was kind of cool that he came out and did that. And, and I'm just like, well, that's what I like to do. So I'm out here helping you. And some people don't understand, like myself. I know people like that, but I don't expect that of people. I just want to go out and help people do stuff. And there's a lot of guys in NorCal, well, not just in NorCal, but in karting generally, that want to help out. And so I think with the new karters like Mike and Andre, that they just go out and kind of find a crew that they can work with and maybe just hang with some people over the weekend, maybe go on a practice day with everybody and just kind of learn and tune. And because it's not going to be the same for Andre or Mike, their karts are probably going to be two different setups. But if you have somebody that can communicate and you got a couple people, you got to brainstorm over stuff and you can fine tune your own driving style and maybe do some lead and follow with your buddies on a weekend kind of thing.
I wanted
and
to
that goes back
plus
to
one on
Andre's
that.
point of the group.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to plus one on that, Phil, that seat time. My invitation to folks, if you're not doing outdoor karting yet, is think about what do you want to do in the next, X months or years, and how do you make it sustainable? When I say sustainable, I mean whatever you choose to do, how can you do it more than just next 2 or 3 months, right? You want to, hopefully, we all want you to do this for a long time with us, and seat time is the most crucial thing, right? If you choose a chassis or engine combination where maybe your resources run out after 6 months, that might not be the best for you. So if you're getting started, there's probably a few ways to start as far as I understand. And one of them, the easiest way, is you find a local team and you build a relationship, you rent their cart. So I run with Nick Leduc at Karting Collective. There's a bunch of local teams that are all excellent. Austin Elliott, Speed Sense, Ron White Racing, Gary Carlton, SSI, Tavish McRae, who's actually in the comments. So you can reach out to Tavish and ask him all these questions right after the show or now, right? Hey, how can I rent a cart from you? What do you guys support? How much does it cost? And they will all tell you. They're very transparent. And I found your comment, Jason, if you go to somebody in the middle of the busiest time of the race weekend, everybody's been super nice and they've just said, like, hey, can you come back in a little bit? Or they've just given me the information I was looking for. But the main invitation is go and talk to them, talk to the teams, and find out what they support. And if that's your way in, if you go with a team, you don't need to have any tools. They will tell you what protective equipment to buy. They will suggest a chassis most likely, and an engine package for the class that they maybe guide you towards, and they'll help you get started. And there's another way where you talk to other racers and friends, and maybe you store the cart at the track, so you don't need to have a trailer. I store my cart at the track. I had it with Nick at Karting Collective. There's other places you can store it at, and you show up with your car. You have your protective equipment. They roll the cart out to you on a cart stand, and you can go, right? And you don't need to have any tools or trailers, and still kind of you can be independent, sort of. And then the third way is you're full independent. You have your own tools. Surprisingly, you don't need that many tools. You need way less tools here than in motorcycle racing. It's actually pretty sweet. Like the setup to get going in karting, to do track days, don't worry about it. Just do it. Get into it. Go and rent a cart, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And we have a. I always want to say listeners because I'm so used to like radio stuff, but we have a viewer here, Keith James. I do indoor karting, so I should rent before I buy and do track days with my own cart. Xander, you're nodding your head.
Yeah. So I think they're making really good points on that. I think the thing that needs to get driven home big out of this, and not in a scary way, is how big of a jump it is to go from indoor karting to outdoor karting. There's just so much more to it. Obviously you can easily see the price tag, but it's kind of mentioned the time commitment and how much more difficult it is. And so kind of like what Jason was alluding to with Phil earlier, right? Like about racecraft, the racecraft's different. How you drive the go-karts are different. You're talking a rental cart that weighs about 400 pounds without the driver, and a race cart's about 150. That's a massive, massive swing, along with higher horsepower and stickier tires. So being a sponge is important. Coming into it with an open mind is important. It doesn't matter what you've won in the rental karting stuff, because it's a different discipline. Obviously, in the terms of the pyramid, it is a stepping stone into outdoor karting. But you need to kind of go and say, all right, this is like a new level. You need to be very similar to the same way that I'll tell any go-karter that's about to go to car racing is, okay, now you're starting over in a way, so you need to kind of come in and not forget everything you learned. The base of how to hit an apex and all that will apply, but how to race other drivers, how to work on the go-karts, how to drive the go-karts, fast is going to be a little bit different. So from doing indoor karting, I think what you're looking at, right, I would say to rent, kind of like what Andre alluded to. You'll find that by renting, you kind of get to, it's not only try before you buy with karting, that's also trying before you buy with the shop and that kart brand, so you may like a guy over the phone, and then you get into the pit area and you realize, I didn't really enjoy this experience of this group, but I was here at the track and I met a different guy, and I like this shop owner a little bit more. And, all the shop guys, they kind of have, it's a weird kind of understanding that they all know that, they're not going to be able to please every kind of customer and every type of person. But that's another thing too, that's important, is that when you rent, you're getting to try the whole experience, from the people you're renting from how they interact, along with just trying to learn the go-kart. And of course, the biggest helping hand with doing the rental versus showing up on your own is you're going to have just a variety of not only different costs that come up, right? It's always good to have when you're budgeting, like Andre said, a 10-20% of what you think you can spend to be your contingency, your rainy day fund for when stuff breaks or things you don't expect to buy. But you're also not going to expect to run into struggles. Like, one quick story I had that's really funny is, so I showed up to the racetrack because I knew a rental, to watch a club race, and I met a rental family that I had known from a while back. I told us what brand to go to, what shop to go to. We went and bought the go-kart from the shop. Track was it's very similar to a lot of the Norcal club tracks. It's desolate on a lot of weekdays or random practice days, and the club there was a lot smaller even now than many Norcal clubs in Georgia. So when my dad and I showed up with the cart in the back of our minivan and got it out, we were the only ones there initially. There was one other family that was there, but they were heavy into the points championship running at the front of the junior class luckily, I knew the dad. Funny enough, the dad ended up being the GM and moved down with me to Homestead. So he's been like a second father to me. He's a shout out to Darren Tebby. He's an awesome guy. But him and his son Connor were there. His son was my age. We go out, put the go-kart down. Me and my dad, we kind of don't really know what we're doing. We know we have to put air in the tires. Put air in the tires. All right. We know we need to fuel up the go-kart. Put fuel in. We know we have a clone, which is like what was it to what the 206 class is now. Luckily replaced, much better motor. So you just got to pull the cord, hit the gas, go. All right, easy. We roll out on the track, and the steering wheel is kind of tough to turn. And I make it out of the pit lane, and I go down the back straightaway, and I get down to the hairpin, and it still won't turn. Like I'm trying, so I come to a stop. My dad runs out. He's like, "What's going on?" The chassis had a locking pin on the steering column for when they would want to put it on the scales. And when we bought the go-kart, you just didn't know what to ask. And so we didn't know that there was a lot. Me and my dad are looking around. We're like cutting zip ties or pulling little, ties off. We're like, why won't it turn? And luckily, because there was nobody else at the track, no corner marshals, no whatever. I mean, this is just a nonprofit club track that you could just show up to if you paid $35 online. The other dad, Darren, and his son Connor came over, and they're like, "Oh, pull the locking pin out. All of a sudden, I could turn the steering wheel, and then I got to drive all day." So there's that other aspect too when you rent a go-kart, that the basic stuff, you just don't even know what you don't know in this sport, and that is a funny curve. That's a good meme that James made a long time ago. I remember, where you kind of slowly think you're learning, and where you think you learn and you feel like you've got a really good handle is actually one of the points where you really have no idea. You actually know this little, but you feel like you've learned this much. So you need to always have an open mind. I'm still learning, and I still try to be very mindful of that, even on my own shows and who I talk to, that I am far from, knowing enough. But, that's through the whole process. Even after you buy the kart, even after you've been racing for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you can always learn more. You really have no idea how little you actually know. But on your first few days at the racetrack, if you don't have a buddy you really know that is willing to guide you through it already, going to rent from a shop, or even at least if you buy a go-kart from the shop, ask if you could pay their support fee to be with them, or have them come with you, or go with them to the track one day for your first couple track days. I think is super crucial. There's so much stuff. Not only will you not maybe expect to spend, like little things that pop up here and there, but little things you just won't know how to do. Like, for example, me and my dad not knowing that there was a locking pin on the steering column, and we would have packed the go-kart up, or probably driven back to the shop that day, because we're like, well, we don't know why the steering won't turn. But that's just it's a funny story, but I think it's a good testament to going to the track for your first few days with someone who does know.
That's very well put, Xander. And on that, I do have to give a shout out to Donald Durbin Jr. for being so supportive of my purchase, because I have a little mechanical inclination. I was pretty confident getting a cart. I can work on it. I'll be all right. Boy, I did not know. I did not know what I needed to do for that cart. I got the motor broke in. That was I did that. That's all right. What pressure was it? Or what did these go at? It was like you said, Xander. You know a lot until you don't.
Yeah.
You're working your way up, and then you realize how much you don't know. It's tough. Going with a first purchase cart, out of the gate, just going straight for it like I did. Wow, what a different world versus the rental. You can kind of come up into it nice and slow, a little softer initiation into it.
So yeah, and that's actually a pretty good point too. And I don't know if I missed it when I stepped out of the studio for a minute, but did you guys talk about I know Andre hinted at it, where the different, you can do a full arrive and drive, partial mechanicking. Did you guys kind of hint at that, or talk about how, if you are not interested in mechanics, then you definitely need to be under a tent? Did you guys hint at that at all?
A little.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too far on that, because I don't want to push people towards the tents right away, because I think I think at the club level, it's I don't think that's the right way to go. Is the whole tent thing.
It's a mechanical vehicle, and where there's safety involved, I think at the very least you should have somebody else with you who's mechanically inclined, whether that's a team or a mechanic or a friend who's mechanically inclined. It's always good to have a second pair of eyes there, and I would at least put that as like the minimum requirement. If you can go all the way and have a team or somebody from a team and come wrench with you, great. But for most people, I think it's going to be, a friend who fixes their own cars or whatever. And you can fumble through it together, but at least you've again, especially when it comes to safety, Xander is a great example with the pin stuck in there. My first time in a go-kart, throttle stuck open. It was and my first race was on a road car course. I went down to turn 1.
Right off.
Right out. And right off and into the weeds. And I had a throttle return spring on it, but I didn't realize that, the one that's on the carburetor is not enough. You need a second spring on the carburetor and on the pedal too. So things like that. And somebody who's not familiar with karts may not spot some of those things, but it's still better than not having anybody. But
I think it's important too that if you get into karting, you understand that if you have 2 hours of track time, you probably, depending on the engine package, the chassis package, there's a lot of variables. You probably have 2 hours of track time. You're probably gonna have 4 to 10 hours of kart prep before and after the events.
Possibly, yeah.
And
so Andre mentioned that group that they have. I mean, that's another great way to go, right? Is to have a cohort of guys that get together, make sure they're there at the same day, at the same time, look out for each other and help each other out.
Yeah, and then Andre also made the comment about tools and Costco, $100, and but before you go out and buy a toolkit, get the cart. Even call your local shops if you need a local shop in your area. Again, go to norcalkarters.com, fill out my form. I'll send you the direction of a shop. But ask them like, hey, can I spend a half an hour? Can I pay you? Start it off with, hey, can I pay you to tell me what tools to buy for this cart? And if a kart shop knows that they're going to be compensated for their time, they're going to be a lot more willing to help you out. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's all about the money. But hey, Keon, how are you? It's, again, the shops are in business, that is their business, is karting, and it's time for money.
It's a balance,
I mean,
right?
the toolkits,
there has to be value on both sides.
Is what?
There has to be value on both sides, right?
Yes.
And to speak to what Keith James mentioned earlier about going outdoors, I think we might have overlooked maybe the most obvious thing, and that is like, you don't necessarily have to go like full bore race kart outdoor. You can always go rental car outdoor, right?
Yeah.
And even that is quite a bit different than being indoor. So I say, Keith, I mean, that's probably, if it's an option for you, find the nearest outdoor track and go pound out in the rentals if that's available. It's definitely much more, it's definitely closer to competition karting in the sense that the curves tend to be more flowing, whereas indoor, just by its very nature, it's more compact, it's a bit more pointy. So it'll give you a good feel for what it's going to be like when you get into a race kart.
Yeah, you can just pass a little bit more. Can you bring up Jason, Randy's comment? You had it up a little bit earlier.
I had it up and then I dropped it off because we weren't getting to it. So
do you want to get
Randy
to it?
Rothweiler, he's one of our Norcal guys. When I started with my son, we really did not have the money to go racing. We did it and had support from Invader and Donald Jr. So for those who don't know, Donald Jr. is Donald Durbin at Prairie City Karting. How do you guys support the people on a budget and keep them in the sport? Great question. Let's see. I get a lot of satisfaction from beating people with newer equipment, but it is easy to be discouraged if you think because people have new equipment, they're always going to beat you. I kind of want to start off on that. And if I tangent, cut me off. From a kart shop perspective, we need to do a much better job at explaining and setting expectations of, one, what a racer should expect to spend in karting, and two, what the shop needs. And I think it was Andre that mentioned it. Different shops have different business models. Some are full on race teams. Some are walk-in shops that are going to sell you a chain, and there's everything in between. I think, Randy, it's you find the shop that's going to support your type of racing or your type of effort that you want to put into it. If you want to be the guy that shows up with your helmet and walk into a tent and hop into a cart, just bring a big credit limit. If you want to be the guy with the pickup truck and your kid and you want to learn how to put air in your tires, find that guy at that track that seems to be the one helping people. That's my 2 cents.
I think this is a good kind of segue. Randy, your question is similar to what Keith James asked again, his second follow-up question, and Gear Nuts kind of alluded to this. If you're on a budget, which I am, the second-hand used vehicle market is an absolute gem. It's amazing. And I think your first stop should obviously be Jason and Jason's Extra Kart Parts. You go to Jason, you kind of share what you need, and he'll tell you all about your options. Alternatives, Karts List group on Facebook, or like 10 other kart used part or used chassis groups on Facebook, eBay. I actually found my chassis through eBay because a friend of mine knew I was looking for a chassis, and he said, hey, there's one on eBay. I never thought I would look for a chassis on eBay. It ended up being from somebody who was very reputable, so I could trust the seller. But I would, if you're on a budget, used parts, used certain safety equipment like elbow protection, used suit if it's not ripped, it works. I bought my suit used because why would I want to spend $200 more if I'm gonna mess it up anyway, maybe in the first season or whatever it is, So Keith, I would, and I think you mentioned, Keith, that, hey, should I go to the karting school in Sonoma? Or I think Lisa is a good choice as well. I would say start somewhere sooner rather than later, because I was in your shoes. I was doing K1 indoor, and I wish I would have switched to outdoor earlier. Join a group like Norcal Master 100cc Kart Racers on Facebook or one of the other groups, and come and ask us, because some of our members could maybe rent you a cart or let you borrow one for free or whatever it is they want to do. The way I got started myself, I found Ivan Lvov and Roman Alexeyenkov, and I just found them. I reached out to them on Facebook. I said, "Hey, Ivan, you were doing that class last year. You were racing at that class in Rock Sonoma. How was it?" And he was like a big intro to all of karting for me. So shout out Ivan and Roman. Thank you both. And through them, I found a lot of other folks. And I ended up renting Ivan's cart from Ivan. So Keith, rent a cart, go to the school, and maybe you'll end up buying some used, some things used to keep your budget down, and you can get outdoor faster.
And if I can, I'd like to bring up Michael Schumacher on used equipment. I don't think it's the biggest thing. I think you can drive through it. I bought a brand new cart. It was more of a personal choice. I didn't want any blame to go to something. I wanted the blame to be on me. So that's why I bought a brand new cart. But no, I think that's just more of a challenge. I think you can learn just as well on a used cart. I don't think there's anything out there. Well, there probably is some trash somewhere, but yeah, I think the used cart market's pretty good, safe place to go to first.
Yeah, and the biggest thing if you go and use, just do your homework. There's shops or people available out there for hire that can go with you if you want to look at carts, or buy from a local shop that sells used carts. I don't think people realize how fortunate we are in Northern California. We have 6 tracks within 2 hours of Sacramento. We have 3 or 4 powerhouse race teams that call Norcal their home. And some of these guys use their chassis 2 or 3 weekends and they sell them. Call them up. I mean, those are great ways to go. If you need to get a hold of them, let me know. I will put you in touch with them. Let me know what kind of class you want to run. If you don't know what class you want to run, start going to local kart tracks. If you're in NorCal, go to norcalkarters.com. We have a list of all the tracks. If you're not in NorCal, send me a note or go on Kart Pulse and start asking, hey, I'm in Minnesota, what tracks are near me? Or I'm in Georgia, what tracks are near me? And Kart Pulse has done a great job getting the forums and that community going. But I think a lot of it is people just don't know where to go, where to ask that first question.
Yeah, I got a lot of help from reading technical articles on Kart Pulse and how-to guides. I mean, I hope you don't mind, Jason, but for local guys, make sure you talk to folks like Jeff at Kart Speed, Austin at Speed Sense, Ron White, Gary Carlton, SSI Racing. They have carts for sale, or they know somebody else who has a cart for sale. Instead of like, if you don't have any experience, instead of trying to figure it out on your own, they will look over the cart with you, like Jason said. And yeah, it's really helpful. If you want a brand new cart or almost a brand new cart, like one race old, it's really doable with all these folks here.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back to what you said earlier, Jason, about managing expectations, right? I think Ross Bentley, who's written a ton of racing books, I mean, one of the things that he always said is like, you go to race where you have the biggest budget, and then you manage your expectations appropriately. And most people who race across the nation are racing on used carts. They're not racing new ones. I mean, you just take a look at the grid and walk up and down. Most people are on used gear. You know, the folks on new gear are the outlier. You don't need it. You need a good cart. Obviously, it needs to be in good shape. It needs to be straight. There's a whole bunch of things that we could go through on checking them, but you know, don't talk yourself out of it. Racing is, well, it's a sport, obviously. It's a mind game, right? So, you know, naturally you see somebody with the shiny equipment up front. Oh, well, it's the shiny equipment. Not really, because if you look carefully, especially at the major events, you look at the back, the shiny equipment there too. So it's easy.
That's a good point.
Easy to tell yourself that that's the problem, but really the problem may also be that, you know, that other person's dedication level is higher, or, you know, they're spending money elsewhere. So, I mean, good gear is nice, and by all means, if you want to go get brand new stuff, go get it. But for most people, I think, you know, sit down and you know, think about a budget, right? Like Andre's mentioned, obviously you want to think about your upfront capital costs for buying your stuff, and then your ongoing costs for the races and whatever else you want to attend. And then I would say, you know, factor in some coaching or other resources like that so that you get the most out of whatever seat time you do. And that will really drive how many races you're going to be able to do and what your budget looks like. You know, it's just, you got to do a little bit of math to make sure that it works.
Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, there's a lot of different good, you know, shops around. There's a lot of good schools, or, you know, Race Karts Inc.'s a great way. A lot of the teams will do arrive and drive days for schools. I think the best thing you can do is, you know, I know it was tough for me as a kid, is suck up the ego and go and watch everybody have fun at a club race, because I didn't ever want to do that. I was like, Dad, I just buy the cart. Let's go there. He's like, I don't know where to buy the go-kart. We got to go there and watch them. I don't want to watch other kids play. I want to do it. But, you know, do that and then manage the expectations, just like everyone's been saying too. You know, like you can psych yourself out on budget of who's got new stuff and who doesn't. And you can kind of psych yourself out on the classes of what you want to do and what you can do. And, you know, Kenny Wallace, you know, former NASCAR Cup driver, runs the modifieds on dirt because he can't afford to run dirt late models. And that guy's like favorite catchphrase for the last decade has been, as long as you're racing, brother. Like it doesn't matter as long as you're racing. And then so, you know, if you can't even do the outdoor karting at right now, that's fine. Do the indoor stuff. There's still ways to get involved. There's ways to work your way in. I can say that as a guy that should have never been on a national grid, much less having some hardware behind me to begin with, which is cool, right? But there's ways to get there. It's hard. It's a extremely difficult sport, no matter what equipment you're in. So the mental game is big of not psyching yourself up on that, and then also like just being open, you know, being a sponge and you know, it's important to go meet people, talk to people. You know, don't psych yourself out on who to go with by the end, because you can do that too. You could have analysis paralysis of what chassis to buy or what shop to align yourself with. That's the end of the day. That's only relevant to a certain degree. But, you know, I think I think the first thing everyone should do is show up to a race, at least get the contact info and get those couple-minute conversations is good. And then from there, you can kind of decide which way you want to go. If you want to do the schools, though, that's a great way, and that's no different than getting in a race. And the schools are a better option for the little jealous kid like me, because at least if we did a school, I would have been able to drive that day versus having to watch everybody and wait for the next race day to come back out.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't really hint on yet is we kind of, I mean, all of us are racers. I am now in a recreational mindset for me personally. And I think it's important if you start making that decision to go out to a local track and you want to start seeing what's available, since you've already made that decision, I want to get into karting, I want to go to a track, I want to go check it out. The next thing you should do is look at your checkbook and say, how much disposable income can I spend on karting? And it's going to be different for everybody. Then you'll know, okay, I can put X amount of dollars towards this new hobby of mine. And that may actually help really direct you on what you're going to be able to do.
I think when you're ready to pull the trigger, a budget's important. It really is. Another way to get involved in the sport, of course, too, and to learn about it is go work with Phil there, right? Go volunteer, go stand. That's how I started out too. I learned a ton, mostly of what not to do, but working at tracks as a marshal and flagging races and even announcing races a long time ago. It's longer than I care to admit, but I mean, that's another great way to it's all about observation, right? And having different perspectives on things and connecting the dots. And
it does make a big perspective difference. Yep, for sure.
I mean, there's no better way to see what the top drivers are doing that's different to the second tier or whatnot, right? And it's a great way to get connected in your community and start to have those conversations that Xander speaks to there.
Yeah, and pretty much every kart track that I ever talk to, they're always looking for help in some form or another. So yeah, again, if you need to find a local track, reach out to us. We'll put you in touch. And you don't have to be in NorCal. I mean, I just happen to be NorCal Karters. That's it. But I mean, I don't care where you're at in the country, just send me an email and I will do the best I can to put you in the right direction or contact with someone in your region if you just want to go to track and help out. That's a great point, James. Yeah,
it's a fun way to get involved. And it doesn't cost you anything, right? And that's I mean, it costs you time.
Fair enough. Well, and if you're going to start racing, it's going to cost time regardless.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right? So yeah, I'd highly recommend that. I think that's really the thing to speak to what we talked about earlier, that there's just so many different ways that you can be involved in karting. And some are driving, some are racing, and many are not. So I guess the best thing, as Xander said, is to go in with an open mind. There's lots of different things you can do to get engaged and have fun in the sport that meets you at the level that you're at in your life, right? Like if you're 12 and your parents don't have any money, which is kind of, where I was at the time, my dad literally said, like, that's a rich man's sport. And I had like no background in racing at all. I'm like, I don't give a shit. This looks sick. I'm doing this. Like, I don't know how. And my how was to lie about my age. And I got a job at a bar and saved up like £500 and bought this complete dirt box of a kart. But but the memories and friendships I made with that, like, we've been at each other's weddings and relationships, and that's the other thing that actually we didn't get a chance to even talk about today. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're all talking right now, is just the community aspect and the friendships, the deep friendships that you build through something like racing, because there's a lot of emotion and a lot of emotional investment, when you go through the process of a race weekend and trying to figure out, setup problems and why you're getting your ass kicked and why you're not getting your ass kicked and why this fell off your cart and things like that. So, that's another great thing about the sport too, is just the community and the vibe that you can get at the track.
Yeah, and if you're out there, if the whole racing thing is kind of not your forte, we're spoiled in NorCal. We have 6 tracks. Become a member at a local club. Go out on a Thursday. Go do your hour or two in your cart you bought off Craigslist or whatever. And it's like, can you race it? I don't know. I don't know what cart you're looking at Craigslist, but it'll get you in the seat. And there's a whole different community out there for those guys.
I think that's actually a really good point to raise too, because in the conversations I've seen on our forums, like, there's definitely a perception that if you're going into competition karting, like, you have to have a specific kart and you can only race, right? Well, a lot of people come on the weekday with, the $1,200 shipper from Craigslist, and they just go tear it up, And if that's where you're at in your life with your finances and time, go do that. Start there. But there's lots of people that just go and enjoy that too. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Well, we have a couple of tracks
saying,
in NorCal that, up until recently, I have to be careful how I phrase it because I don't want to put misinformation out there. But after COVID, they really didn't make an attempt to put races on. And I don't want to say they didn't give two shits because they care about karting, but their membership was so strong for just purely recreational guys. They looked at it and they said, why put a race on? There's 4 other tracks in the area that are racing. We have people that they're filling the pits, just showing up on a play day, and a lot of the NorCal factory teams use that track as a test track. So you don't have to just grab a helmet and go race. Let's see. Keith James, Andre, what changed in your mindset going from K1 to outdoor?
Fitness. Definitely. One great thing about outdoor karting when you're doing 2-stroke karting, the only 4-stroke I've done. So there's a couple of things. I think we should go really quickly over some terms, right? Like first, I'll answer a question, Keith, but keep in mind karting. When somebody says senior karting, senior, crazy fast. These are like 17-year-old kids who spend their life on the track. They're fast. Master karting, generally like you're like 32 or older, over 30 years old, or you're younger, but you're around 190 pounds. That's master karting. Now, 4-stroke, we're talking about 206cc 4-stroke engines, about 8 horsepower, no gears, something similar to what you can rent in a really good outdoor rental place, just a little bit faster. The 206 is a little bit faster.
We'll let Xander talk about the 4-stroke stuff.
And then 2-stroke. Now, when I say outdoor karting, for me, right now, like we're focused on 100cc 2-stroke in our group, and the physicality of that compared to K1 is day and night. In K1, you don't need to be physically fit, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't matter how fit you are. In K1, you can win the championship if you go enough and you get that seat time, which we discussed about seat time before. That's important in K1, just like in anywhere else. You got to give your practice days in, right? But going from K1 to 2-stroke outdoor, very quickly I realized karting is going to be great for my fitness because now I have a reason to go to the gym. I'm puny right now. I'm literally puny. I've been injured. My neck has no muscles. That's my general demeanor. Lack of muscles. That's me. But that's fine. That'll improve over time, and it has to improve because, Keith, when you get to 2-stroke racing, or you do track days, you do practice days, and you do like 7-8 sessions a day, you'll feel it after lunch. 1 p.m. hits, and you still have 3 hours to go, 4 hours to go, and you're dead, man. Like you're hanging on if you're like me, unfit and indoor computer person as I am. So I think it's great because it gives you a reason to be healthier. And the second thing that changed is consciously making, what's the best way to put it? Making sacrifices to get to that grid. Yeah. When I was racing motorcycles, this older guy once said, anybody who makes it to the race grid on the race day is a hero in his book. And that's how I view it now. If you're able to make it to the race weekends and you're on the grid, that took sacrifice, that took time and effort. And I think it's worth it. And you have to be willing to make those choices when you go race outdoor. I like what Jason and James said. You don't have to race outdoor, right? You could do practice days, you could do track days, and you could take $1,000 Craigslist card and you could have the best day because any day on the track is a great day.
Yeah. Let's expand. I'm going to expand on your point, Andre. So you were talking about the classes. The other big thing too is when we're talking about 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. Typically, generically speaking, let's see, Keith, you're saying you're 28, weigh 150. If you're running a 2-stroke class, you're going to be on a stickier tire. Stickier tire is going to have more grip. It's going to be more physical. If you decide to go the 4-stroke route, it's going to be a harder tire. So there's a couple differences there. 28 years old, you're going to be in what we classify as senior. So for you, the next thing you need to do is get. I would probably do a couple different kart schools at a couple different tracks and figure out what engine package kind of suits you. Because you're going 4-stroke or you're going 2-stroke. You're not getting a 4-stroke and racing with 2 strokes. It's just they're not going to allow you out there. So that'd be the next step.
And I think it's worth saying that 4-stroke racing is resource friendlier. If 4-stroke is, making your heart go pound faster, then it can be a crazy amount of fun. The number of people on the track at the same time, 30 people, it's a lot of fun, and it'll be a lot cheaper than racing any kind of tag 2-stroke in a similar class, as far as I understand. What do you guys think?
No, you're right. And I think, too, it really depends on where you're racing. Because if you go to Sonoma, you don't have a 4-stroke option. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You're racing 100cc 2-stroke. If you got to Prairie City, Dixon Davis, the tracks I call them the valley tracks just because centrally located. I would pretty much put almost anybody in the 4-stroke stuff. And I'm a 2-stroke shifter guy. I love my 2-stroke shifter. But if you're going to Dixon Davis, Prairie City, it's going to be very hard to beat the competition in the 4-stroke classes. I think Mike can definitely speak to that.
Absolutely. I do see it as more of a kind of a beginner's. I don't want to say slower course because competition or racing is about your competition, right? And it is fierce out there with the 206. I think it's a great platform. I think it's really good to start on. But because it is such it's a spec class, it's a spec motor. You can't do nothing to them. The performance is very, very tight. Puts a lot of it in your hands, and these guys have been going around that track a lot, and it's But I don't think you should be intimidated by it because the only thing they have is just a couple more laps than you.
Yeah.
You know.
And another thing I'd like to real quick, and then we'll let Xander get on. But James, Phil, myself, and Xander, we've watched a lot of racing, and one of my favorite things is when you got these guys that always make an excuse on why they're not fast or why they can't do this, why you can't do that. One of our local pros, Ron White, this is at the Supernats, and I can't remember what year it was. It was a number of years ago. He finished fifth at the Supernats. What's that?
I think I know the story you're going to tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he finished fifth at the Supernats in the premier shifter class. And I happened to be standing next to him when he came off the track. Him and his mechanic grabbed the cart off the scales, and his right front spindle fell off the cart. This is, again, at the Supernats, the most competitive race at the time in America. In the pro class, he finished fifth. And I just looked at him, I was like, how long did you drive it for? And he goes, like the second or third lap into the race is when he felt the bearings break in the spindle. And I'm looking at it, and you finished fifth. And it's kind of just a testament to, one, heart and desire and just pushing that cart. But I'm sorry, if you're going to be 5 ounces overweight or your cart's going to be 18 months old, or it's like, how did this guy finish fifth at the most competitive event in the country? So just get out there and do it. Just get out there and try it. Xander, I think it was you that said, don't overanalyze it.
Yeah. And, I know for me from the outside, right, our our class structure isn't super easy just off the nomenclature, the names of them, to understand what the ladder looks like. Your entry level class is your 206 class, both from a budget side, which is the 4-stroke division. You think, when we go, especially if you look at like the moto world, right? I mean, they switch fully forward to 4 strokes, and the 2 strokes are kind of vintage or for fun or a little bit slower. But at least since they're all on one type of engine, it's very easy to understand. Okay, this is a 60 bike, this is an 85 bike, this is a 125, a 250, a 450, and so it's a very easy ladder to kind of for a new guy to understand. Since we have this hybrid model of 4-stroke and 2-stroke, they're not separate worlds. I know some people believe they are. I don't believe they are in any way, and I've never fully understood that from a guy who got in without a deep history in the sport either side. There's a 4-stroke LO206, or in this case now I think Briggs has taken the LO off and it's just Briggs 206. That is your spec Miata. That is your entry level class. It's the most budget friendly class. So when the numbers get big, and it's also the easiest class to get up to speed because it is the slowest. So because of that, then just like we've said, the speed's irrelevant, and the racing it's easier to find close racing, right? At the club level. The faster the kart is at the club level, the more the field will spread out, and you may find yourself not having as much fun in a race in a 100cc, 125cc 2-stroke or a shifter kart because the field spreads out after lap 1. But a 206 class, it's a lot easier to get to the limit because you're going slower and there's less going on. So the pack, you're pretty much guaranteed at a club race anywhere you go, not only from the budget side to have a grid of 10, 15, 20 206 guys, but also for them to be close. And then the next then the next step up in speed and horsepower is going from a 9 horsepower 206 to a 22 horsepower 100cc division. And same thing, it'll be a little bit tougher for everyone to get to that limit than they were able to in the 206, but it's still very much possible. And that's kind of the good 2-pronged club format. And then when you go to the faster stuff, you really don't find the fields end up getting super tight until the nationals. And that's what makes the SCUSA, the USPKS, and the ROC races so entertaining to watch, because it's as close as a Club 206 race is when it comes to lap times, if not closer, but they're going twice the speed. And you've got this great combination. But when you go down to the club level and the talent's more spread out and the equipment's more spread out, and you just have less people. But the 206 class is the best way to start. And if it isn't there, the 100cc is the next best thing, because that's kind of step number 2 on the ladder. And, just like Lisa was saying earlier, you just start slow. That doesn't really matter if you don't want to race, because if you don't care to race and you just want to enjoy it as a hobby, a shifter kart's perfectly fine. It's going to cost more and it'll have more to upkeep, but there's nothing wrong with buying a kart outright and just going and doing it. But if you do want to race and you want a good chance of finding a good field and you want the smartest way to develop and the easiest way to dip your feet into the pool, you start with the 206 and then you go to 100cc, or if there's no 206, you start 100cc and then you go from there,
And if
you
you
stay in 206 too, forever.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with staying. Again, going
Right.
back, as long as you're racing, it doesn't matter. When I say move up, it's if the budget's there to move up. But 206 is absolutely proper. It's any kind of owner kart racing is definitely proper racing. It will get harder the faster you go. There's no question. It'll get more expensive the faster you go.
Yeah, for sure.
But just like I said earlier, like any kind of owner kart racing is very next level, a whole other part of the world. It may be the entry level point to the owner karting world, but it is still light years above the rental karting side, which is why you just got to approach it with an open mind and low expectations and try to have fun and understand it'll probably take you a season or a couple seasons, depending how many days you get at the track. It's really not about how many years you're in the sport, but really how many days you drive the go-kart for you to get to be a competitive level. But the easiest one to get to ceiling wise to reach is the 206 class. So it's, you shouldn't be intimidated.
I see a lot of people just having fun racing at the back. You have group 3 or 4 guys running at the back. They know where their skill level is at, and they don't mind not being up in that front 5. They're in this middle pack in the 4 group, and he's racing his 4 buddies that they always race together, and they all know they're about that same skill level. Not quite at the 15-year-olds running the seniors up front, but at least running with your buddies and having a good time. And that's you can still have a good
That's
time.
what it's
even
all
if you're
about.
not up front, you can still be having a blast driving with your buddies in the middle of the pack or something, and coming off and fist bumping each other and being like, yeah, that was awesome. We did so good. And you learn a lot of stuff by doing that. Even if you're not up front, you still have a great time. Just having fun in the middle of the pack too, racing your buddies.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Briggs stuff, it's just not sexy. And
That's just because you're a shifter snob,
We're all
Jason.
running
I
the
am.
middle
You're
table
a
go-karts.
shifter
There's no-
snob.
But
Let's be
Mr.
honest,
Worked
guys,
at
we're racing
Sweet
go-karts
Tech.
here, right?
Hear me
Owns a
out for a second.
shifter.
The four of us that have been around this for more than 18 months, when the Briggs really started gaining momentum, it drove me nuts at first when you see IKF national champions or SCUSA champions dropping into the Briggs class and racing. And when I say they were dropping into the race, typically they were mechanics. And you'd look like in SoCal, and you see these names like, why is this guy racing Briggs, right? And then you kind of get that realization. It's like, well, they just want to race. There's 30 guys on the track. And again, these are guys that won national championships, and you see their name on the Briggs entry list, and it's like, why? Because 30 of their buddies are out there, and then they got more guys together. So it just really comes down to, what fits your personal little bucket. Like, do you want to race against 30 guys, or do you want to do 90 miles an hour into turn one and scare the shit out of yourself? It's the first one.
Like test
number
it out.
two.
I would say if you
try
don't
them
know,
both.
right, there's a way to find out with like low cost. You can go and see if racing is for you in one of these 4-stroke competitive series. Probably the most well-known in Cali is SoCal, CalSpeed in LA, in Ontario, LA, East LA. You could fly there and you could go to the Super or Sprint series, and you could race 30 people at the same time in a decent 4-stroke kart, and you could see if racing is for you. Now, if that's too far, if you don't want to go to SoCal, I think soon enough Le Mans Karting is going to have another outdoor track in South Bay. But until then, doesn't Prairie City do like a longer 4-stroke race, like a couple of hour enduro, right?
I don't know. I don't think Prairie City does one. They used to have one down in Monterey at Marina Bay Karters. Sorry,
Sonoma's
I'll bring
done
those
it
comments
also.
back up in a second. There's been a few enduro races, but they haven't happened after COVID, at least for NorCal.
But
Make 'em happy,
try to
Jason.
find like a competitive race series, because there's a big difference between an outdoor 4-stroke kart that you're driving alone or with other track day people versus a competitive 4-stroke race. It can be insanely fun to be in a competitive race, and same with K1, right? If you go on a regular day in a K1, random people indoor karting thing, they'll be really slow next to you, most likely, if you've done some karting at K1. And then you go on a challenge GP night, and it's a lot more fun because there's less traffic and there's more people of your own skill level. So if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't know if I want to race, maybe I want to do track days, well, go and try it out. And if you want to do track days and you don't want to race, then anything you buy will work, right? You don't need to. Maybe you don't want to learn the momentum game. You don't want to learn how to carry your speed. You don't care about being the fastest you can be. Maybe you want to be the most fun you. Maybe you want to drift. As long as you're on the racetrack in a kart, it's all good, right?
Yeah, I'm only laughing because I have one of my customers. They have a Briggs 206 kart, and I would service a kart, and 2 weeks later they bring it back, and their rear tires were just smoked. And I couldn't figure it out. It's like, what are you guys doing? And he goes, oh man, we're just flat out. I mean, it's like, yeah, you're a racer. All racers are flat out. Well, then he brings his phone. He's like, here's a video. Well, it was literally, they were out at the local track, but the video he showed me was just his kid in the pits, hauling ass down the pits and just throwing it into circles and then going the other direction and doing it again. And then I'm looking at the video and going, no wonder your tires last 2 weeks. I mean, these tires on this cart should last you 2 years. And he goes, yeah, but we're having fun.
Hell yeah.
Put more tires on it, make sure the clutch is good, and go again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And then we all laughed about it because they were just like, okay, that's what you're doing. He goes, I told you I drifted. And it's like, yeah, I was thinking differently. Let's see. Ashley Johnson. I think it's important to emphasize how overwhelming race weekends can be. I would suggest lots of practice days prior to entering a race. Seat time is everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do want to say that it's kind of goes back to managing expectations as well. Knowing that these race weekends are going to be long, knowing that you can call yourself a champion, sometimes just making it to the grid, getting that far up there, and having everything fall into place as it should sometimes is an accomplishment in itself. So that being said, when you have this overwhelming grid moment day, you're kind of having a bad weekend. You're out there by yourself. You're having a bad race. It's hard to have a bad race all by yourself out there. At least for me so far in this, because for example, this last race out at KPX Davis, there was a heat race where somebody had spun on cold tires, and I was way in the back as well. And instead of just trying to drive all by myself, I kind of just stayed out of it a little bit and let the other person catch up so we could do some racing in between ourselves. And just it lasted 2 or 3 laps, just got by me pretty quick, but that was fun. And that's what it was. That's what it was about, was just, it was easy to have fun.
I usually wait for the leaders to catch me so I can race for the front.
Oh,
Wait for him, huh? Yeah, sure.
Wait for him.
Waiting for him. Yeah.
Let's see. Where else are we going with this? Let's see. Frank Chavez was talking about a 4-hour enduro at Prairie City, but those were in rental carts. Not that I don't want to highlight the rental stuff, but I was kind of thinking of the machismo stuff that they do down in SoCal.
Yeah. I remember the ones in Monterey, and there was one that me and my son-in-law did in Sonoma. They did that one, but
yeah,
usually in the rain. That was everyone I've ever done has been in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. There's so many different ways you can get involved in karting. You can get in as a recreational guy, you just go pound laps. You can get in as just a club guy. Like Andre was saying, you can go down south and run some enduro stuff. If you're running KPX, that's going to be Norcal's, one of our competitive 4-stroke classes. So it's probably not the best to jump in right to a KPX if you're new to the sport, because you're trying to figure out so many other things. One about racing, your program, etc. I'm a big supporter of the club stuff. I've actually talked to some people, they go to some clubs and they feel overwhelmed because the classes are so big that they just kind of they feel like they're getting thrown in with the sharks. Regardless if there's varying lap times on the track in that class, it's just like they see 30 carts, like, wow, that's a lot. Then maybe you need to find a smaller club for the first year and just get out there and pound laps and get consistent. And then if you're transitioning from never been in a cart or an indoor thing, again, reach out to us and we'll send you info on how to get you in a race rental cart. Go rent for a couple weekends. And I don't want to be a dick, but if you can't afford to rent a cart for a couple of weekends, then racing a cart probably isn't in your future anyhow. Because it's going to cost money, and most rental places, it's going to be between $300 and $500 for a full day of a cart rental. Well, if you go out and race cart,
Minimum.
Yeah, if you go out and race, it's going to be, a $200 to $600 weekend at the club level. So it's the money, you're going to spend the money either way. And I think rentals are great. we had Lisa Caceres on earlier, Race Karts Inc. I have contacts with other people that are doing rentals. Some of the teams that I work with, they offer rental days on just regular practice days. And that also gives you a chance to see what other equipment is available out there. Tavish said it earlier. If you're new, find the equipment with support. It almost doesn't matter what you're on at the beginning, but you need the support. Yeah. I'm not going to bag on an Emic, but I'm going to bag on an Emic. Don't plan on racing KPX or Sonoma and you have a 1989 Emic kart, because they're not even going to allow it on the track. So, again, get out to the track, do some research, see what they're racing. Where do you want to race? That's a big thing too. What if you don't want to drive more than 20 minutes? That may take this whole conversation and go, oh, I don't want to drive more than 20 minutes. Like, okay, well, then you're racing 4-stroke Briggs. That's it. Like, that is your only option if you want to race that track.
Actually, Norcal Karters was really helpful for me when I started. I didn't know where all the tracks are, and I went to your website, Jason, and you have every single West Coast track on your website on a Google map. So that's the first place to start for anybody who wants to figure out what's close to them. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the point of Norcal Karters too. It's like, okay, where's the track? Now, in all fairness, if you're an oval guy, I apologize. I don't have oval tracks on there. Everything I'm doing is sprint. Xander's shaking his head.
I'm just messing with you at this point.
You're what?
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, no, you're just
I was going to leave when you said you were going to be a dick.
No, I think, though, the expectation of getting into karting needs to be set.
It does. And again, it goes back.
I sell old used carts. That's my primary income.
Junk.
And I explain to people, do you want to race? And if they go, yes, I go, you don't want to talk to me in extra kart parts because I have old equipment, but it's going to get you on the track very cheaply.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, that goes back to, right, the same thing. There's, the guys in this, slower, more budget classes in the sport get ragged on, right, and teased a bit on social media and online, right? And I think that kind of builds up a bit of animosity back. But then at the same point, like, they're way more in on commitment, financial time, energy, physical fitness than the rental karting guys. And there's still nothing wrong with that too, right? I mean, a rental karting guy is going to be the big dog when he shows up to a regular arrive and drive rental public session. That's not even the league. So it just goes back. Yeah. Like James said, pick something where your budget is going to be somewhat safe. Don't try and overreach above where you're at. If you want to go to that bigger level, then you just got to get creative. And in the meantime, do what you can do. And if that means that it's just indoor karting, then do the indoor karting. If you can do outdoor rental karting, do outdoor rental karting. If you can do the arrive and drive days, which cost more, great. And, if not, but, that you shouldn't look down on any type of the racing. We just need as many people racing as possible. At the same point, you need to be realistic and honest with yourself. Can I afford to do it? Just like Andre said earlier, and just like you're saying now, even though you're being a dick.
Yeah, I mean, it's just setting that expectation. I mean, because in my head, I go to Sonoma a lot, and I'm watching these racers, and you see Hunter, and you see all these top level shifter pilots, and because I'm delusional, and I live in the past, I'm watching these guys like, yeah, and I need a couple of days in the cart, and I could go hang with them. Like that's my delusional, you're smoking crack moment. But it's just so fun watching those guys. But when I go to Prairie City, what do I have in my trailer? A Briggs. Because for me, I know how much work those top guys put in, not just into the karting, because even Briggs guys put in a lot of work, but the physical condition to manhandle a shifter around the track at the pace and the speed that they're doing. Honestly, I just don't want to do it anymore. It's a lot of effort to go out there and put that time in to be in shape to properly drive a shifter cart. But
logged thousands of hours.
City. What's that?
They've logged thousands of hours, like Hunter Kelly and stuff.
Yeah, and they're in the carts all the time. And anyone that's experienced at karting will say that the physical conditioning in a kart is very hard to train for outside of a kart. So if you're
Yes.
in the biggest, baddest kart on the track, well, the only way you can manhandle it is be in the kart.
Even pro racers, pro NASCAR drivers and stuff getting in a go-kart, they go back to the go-kart just to fine-tune themselves. They do, it does direct you, it focuses you on your driving ability and your technique and stuff, your skill, your craft, and all that kind of stuff. It's, and the amount of time you put into it is more than likely you're going to get the more time you put into it, it's going to show at the end. I know a lot of those kids, Austin Elliott, Hunter Kelly, all those guys, Joey, they've, Allmendinger, all those people put in so much time, and they come back to the karts. They can still do it. They can still wheel a kart.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be up front as soon as they get in a kart, like they're talking about at the Supernats and stuff. Those pro guys get in a kart. They don't have the seat time in that kart, but if anybody got in one of their cars, they'd probably run circles around them, and it's all about the seat time. I tell everybody it's seat time, seat time, seat time.
Word.
And it will show in the end if you dedicate yourself to that.
Yeah. And we just had a comment come in from Rick Moore.
Yeah.
As someone newer to karting, it's hard for new drivers with no to little experience to try and get practice on the track without getting pushed around. My personal opinion on that is it probably just depends on the track and the days you're trying to go out. I completely agree with that statement, and at the same time, I completely disagree because it really just depends on the timing and where you're going. If you're trying to go to Sonoma on a Sunday, the weekend before a big race, you're going to get pushed around if you're a new guy. The same thing can be said if you're going to Prairie City on the Saturday, one day before their 4-stroke weekends. That's probably true. But if you go out on a weekend after an event or find a different track that's still local, then maybe you just get a membership and just go out whenever you want when there's less people. What do you think, Andre or Mike?
I'd love to know which tracks he goes to, and then this would be maybe more targeted advice if we knew more. Because when I went with some friends, we went to Dixon, or you go to Blue Max, Davis. Those places are often all yours. You show up, it's beautiful. Maybe there's another person there. It is so great how much space and time you have. There's no schedule. Those places are about $300 a year to be a member, or I think it's maybe $60, $30 per practice day, something like that. And Sonoma, they have a beginner class, and I would say you don't really. I would disagree, because I feel you don't get pushed around unless it's what Jason said. You go just before Challenge or Rock Sonoma, maybe the day before, like the week before. There's Sunday and Monday practice days at Rock Sonoma at Sears Point Karting, and try to go on a Monday or go on a Sunday when it's not such a busy week, right? Like way after the race weekend, like Jason said. And people will help you too. If you feel like you're being pushed around, go and look for a little bit of help on that, or talk to other people. And in the end, everybody wants everybody else to have a great experience on the track. Nobody wants to run over you, So be willing to ask some questions and find out how to improve that, Rick. And please reach out to. I'd love to help as well if I can. Come out with our group and practice with us.
Yeah, and I think Jason nailed it on the head too. Timing is a big part of it. I can't attest to too much in the other tracks besides Prairie City. It's my home track. I spent a lot of time there. The first couple practice sessions out there, I was the new guy. I know I was very slow. And the first couple times I was getting pushed around, I thought, what in the world's going on? I don't think, we're practicing. We didn't need to do all that. And sometimes some guys just use that to let you know that they're there. And then other times they use it a lot and they use it forcefully. And that's the day. That's it's. I wouldn't say necessarily if it was busy or not, because Prairie City does get very, very busy, but it's the attitude of the weekend. Is it a big race this weekend? Is it the Saturday before? Is it a weekday? Is it Thursday? Those are kind of things that come up, but no, I wouldn't say. And also at Prairie City, Donald does have some sessions that he does put out for people that are going out for the very first time. Easygoing sessions, he calls it, I think.
Yeah.
So those are cool that he puts on. Look out for those. Those will definitely help. But I think talk to people. If you feel like you're getting pushed around, just absolutely say, hey, what's going on out there? Could I do something different? Are you upset, or what did I do something wrong? Just talk about it. I'm sure you'll get the communication that you need.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if Rick, if you're still on, we'd like to know what track you're going to. The other part of it too is when you're new, and don't take this the wrong way, you probably don't have a driving line.
Oh yes.
And if you're driving down the middle of the track and you're at a smaller track, I know you're probably thinking you're on the racing line. We all had a day one or a day two. But what happens is like these guys, they at the narrower tracks, there's one or two lines only. And maybe they're not intentionally trying to like blast you out of the way, but if you're running up the middle of the track, it's like, okay, well, we got to move this guy out of the way because we're trying to practice, we're trying to test. So who knows? I'm one of those guys. I hate speculation and trying to answer every single possible scenario. But I mean, Phil and we've watched a lot of racing and we've seen a lot of weird things out there with new guys. So I would suspect that maybe your line is just a little bit off, and if someone does rub you or say, walk up to them at the end and say, hey, am I doing something out there that warranted? Like Mike said, it's like, just have that communication. And if it's a club, oftentimes you'll find, I see this with the kids all the time, like the 12 to 15-year-old kids.
Mm-hmm.
I see it all the time where they'll say, hey, just follow me. And the kids will let you follow around the track.
So helpful.
Yeah, and it gets you on a line. It's like, oh, okay. And if you're driving the right line, your cart's going to handle better. You're going to go like, it's very easy to make someone 10 seconds off the pace. It's pretty easy to make them 8 seconds faster. You can do it real quick. It's very hard to make someone that's 2/10 off the pace finding that 2/10.
And don't be afraid to talk to people, because that could be your next best friend out there. If you ask them something, they may tell you something and you guys might have something in common, and just start talking about it. And then before you know it, you guys are going out every weekend together, and learning off one another, so don't be afraid to talk to somebody, open up, because a lot of people, if they're working on their cart, they're focused on it. But if you ask them a question or something, they may stop and, unless like Jason was talking about earlier, they're in the middle of a race weekend or something, but on a practice day, you ask somebody about something and you'd be like, hey, what's this about? And most of the time at club level, they're going to more than likely pop their head up and be like, oh, are you new? And you guys start talking about stuff. And then before you know it, you're learning stuff and more than likely making a new friend out there, and probably going to learn a lot more down the road, just because you said hi and, hey, I just had a quick question, what's this about, kind of thing. And don't be afraid to talk to the guys at the track. It may seem a little intimidating at first, but just a little hi, what's up, man? I'm just kind of checking this out, kind of thing, and I seen how you were doing it out there, and you kind of bumped me around a little bit. Maybe there's something you can tell me that can help me not be in the way or something, and more than likely 9 times out of 10, they'll be more beneficial to you and outgoing than just being like, whatever, dude, just go, kind of thing. More than likely, the karting family community is very friendly at club level. It's at the L levels too, but more than likely at club level, it's a little bit more forgiving, I guess.
There's more days you're gonna find them relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have one more question, but before we get to it, I want to thank Xander Clements from Kart Chaser and James McMahon from Kart Pulse. They were on earlier. I'm suspecting they looked at their clock and they realized it was 1 o'clock where they're at, 1 a.m.
Oh,
Boom.
So the fact that they were even able to make the time to come on the show is much appreciated. But
That was
yeah,
good.
Eastern time zone. So they probably went, oh crap, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So thank you to those guys for coming on.
Yeah.
Again,
you,
we have
guys.
Caceres on as
Thanks,
well.
guys.
So I'm not wrapping it up unless you guys want to, but I
do have to get up early, so I'm about ready to. I was gonna cut it off at about 10, which is about now.
All right, you got 1 minute. You owe us 1 minute.
All right, that's fine.
All right. How about this? We'll do this question round the horn, and then we'll let Phil go.
Right.
How should I mentally approach my first outdoor day? I'm gonna go first on that one. If it was me, knowing what I know now, what I didn't know then, I would go to 1 or 2 races first, where I think I might want to rate, where I want to drive. And I would just start looking at the registration process, walk them through the pits, get there in the morning like everybody else. So show up at 7:30, see what people are doing. If you go to Sonoma, they have to do pre-tech. The tech is a lot more involved at Sonoma than it is, let's say, at Blue Max Kart Club. So go out early, see what's going on, ask questions, and just like Andre said earlier, follow people around. That's how I
Not
would
in a
personally
creepy
do
way,
it
though.
now. What's that?
Ask if you can do that.
Yeah, ask. And then what I did my first race, I didn't do any of that. I just showed up. Me and my dad, we had one cart. We were going to share a cart. I was going to run senior. He was going to run master. And we realized this was at Blue Max Kart Club. It was a tri-county race. So Phil's the only one knows what I'm talking about when I say tri-county. After the very first practice session, my dad and I quickly realized we're not sharing a cart on that day. So he said, okay, well, I won't race. You can go race. I had no idea what the fuel line was, so I skipped it. I had no idea how to register. I had no idea what scales were. So the whole day was a clusterfuck. Excuse my language. So looking back at it, I would have told myself, hey, maybe you should come watch a race or two and watch the processes, not just the racing on the track, but everything in the pit. Mike, what do you think?
I agree. I skipped the pit part though when I did mine. I went out and watched some racing. I thought it was really, really fun. Looked great. I knew it was a little 4-stroke motor that I'm pretty familiar with, so I dove right into it. And my first practice day out there with the cart, I was nervous. I was intimidated. I didn't know what really to expect. But what I would say, if it's going to be your first outdoor day as a practice day, just get ready to have fun. Don't overthink it, man. Go out there. If you have a question that you think is going to stop you, everybody around is there more than willing to help. So on a practice day, first day out, I'd say just be ready to have fun. Be ready to be nervous. It's butterflies and emotions. It's fun. It's a blast. On your first race day, I would say be there before the gates open. Be very prepared. Ask as many questions on your practice day as you can. Get a hold of, like Jason said, the pre-tech stuff. Try to get a hold of. Go to a race. Go watch the entire process. It's going to be a long day, but that's going to give you the most benefit at missing any of this stuff. It's going to give you a shot at not missing it, right? It's going to let you find the registration place. It's going to let you, find where to go, stand in line for gas. It's going to kind of give you a feel of like, okay, well, they start the schedule here and it kind of just goes as the races go. And then just show up early and again be prepared to have fun. For your first outdoor day, though, I think you're more or less asking for your first practice day. Get out there and have fun. Yeah.
Go as fast as you
Bill?
can without spinning out.
There you go.
Go as fast as you can without spinning out.
Yep.
Coming from the
And
flag.
if you do spin out, that's too far. Then you know where your limit's at. So, you know.
I remember my
Andre?
first outdoor practice day, and I borrowed Ivan's cart, Ivan Love, and there were two things that made a difference to me looking back. First, Ivan said, go and watch videos of the Sonoma track on YouTube. Go and watch somebody's onboard video. So I did that, and that helped. I hadn't been on the Sonoma racetrack in a while. I did the kart school like a year ago, and then didn't get a chance to go back for a while. So watching onboard video helped to get to know the track a little bit. And the second thing, I kind of wish I would have known this earlier. I didn't quite know that. It's hard to really mess up a race kart unless you do really dumb things. If you're out there and you spin, most likely nothing's going to happen. So don't worry about it too much. I was really worried about Ivan's kart. I was like, hey man, come on, Andre, don't break his kart, bro. Like, I was like a little bit timid, and on a motorcycle I used to crash a lot. So I would say, if you break a chain because you put a wheel off the curb, and maybe your rear sprocket hits the curb and you break a chain, which happened to me, not a big deal. Like dozens of dollars later, you have a brand new chain. It's like the cost of a regular maintenance item because of your little wheel off the curb is not worth the worry. So have fun, like Mike said. Look at onboard video, in my eyes, and try to just go out there and do it sooner rather than later. I really wish I would have done my outdoor practice days earlier rather than like kept going indoor. And I wanted to say holla to Josh Putapogo. Josh is doing 100cc master, and he's kicking butt in Challenge of the Americas. He was at Rock Sonoma. He was second in the first race of Rock Sonoma, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he's getting on this coming weekend. There's a race, actually, folks, there's a race this week. So come out to Sonoma and come and say hi and watch people race. There's going to be a bunch of our group members in Master 100cc class. Please come and find me. I'll introduce you to folks. And there's a woman who's getting started in racing. So if you're a woman listening, come and I'll introduce you to Sherry, and you'll get to learn what it takes to get started in outdoor kart racing. If you're somebody
we're live
who
streaming. We'll be live streaming the Sonoma races on YouTube next week.
And if you can't make it, you can always look at the stream later too, right? Look at the last races live stream too to see what the track's like and so on.
Yeah, and then something else I want to add too, as far as the mentally, I'm assuming you have not been out to the track before, and you just want to get in a cart, get out there, and go. There's a lot of things that you may actually just forget, which sounds so silly, but I've seen plenty of people forget water and food and like the things to sustain your body for a competitive event. And you get out there and you're just so excited with your cart. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. It's like, oh, wait a second, I didn't grab lunch. And some of these tracks, they either don't have a snack bar or they're not close to a store. Like even Dixon, I mean, it's 15 minutes from the nearest store. So you just lost a half hour of your day just driving into town and back because you forgot your sandwich. I have a checklist. I have to double check if I have a link to it on Norcal Karters, but it's a 3-page spreadsheet checklist. If it's not on there, I'll write the note. I'll get it up there this week. But I mean, my personal checklist is 3 pages long, and I have 2 different ones. I have one if I'm showing up with my trailer, and I have one if I'm showing up with my truck. The one for the trailer is my packing list, and then the one for my truck is just a one sheet. This is what I need at bare minimum out of the back of my truck. So I meant to post that on Norcal Karters. I'm sure
That'd
it's on there.
probably be
I just
pretty good to put
don't
on
know
there.
where. What's
Hey,
that?
I'm gonna bail out, you guys. I'm
All
bailing
right.
out.
Thank you, Phil. The flag
I'll
man,
talk to
Thank
you
you,
Phil.
guys
Phil.
later. I'll see you guys at the
Thank you,
track.
Phil.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Have
All
a
right,
good one.
Thanks,
thank you.
man.
Okay, there we go. For some reason,
Yeah,
my
the
crop is
checklist, man. What a
Are
good
you guys
call
gonna
out,
hang
Jason.
with me for a bit?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna disappear for a moment. Talk about the checklist and talk about some of the things that you guys forgot about when you first got into it. It's like, oh yeah, that was kind of dumb. But in hindsight, you were so excited to go drive. And I forgot my driving helmet one time.
So, like, I wanted to kind of cover this basic stuff that might help, like Keith or somebody going into the track. First, the first opportunity I think to kind of meet the folks and see the racers is next Saturday and Sunday, April 23rd, 24th, right? Sonoma racetrack, Sonoma kart track. Put in Sears Point karting or something like that to your Google Maps, and come there on a Saturday. Come and find me under Nakkert. You'll probably see master guys. The carts that have numbers like 794, 723, like anything that starts with 7 is master 100cc. So come and talk to any of us, and we'll introduce you around. Now, when you come to the track, you gotta bring a bunch of water. You gotta bring some snacks. If you're gonna be there whole day, good thing is Sonoma is quite well resourced. There's a great taco truck and a truck where you can buy food, but you got to bring a bunch of water, bring some sunscreen and a hat in case it gets warm. Right now, it shouldn't be too bad. Maybe bring like if you're like me, you might want to bring a scarf if you come early, right? If you come there at 8 a.m., it's a little nippy, it's a little cold. I try to find my checklist real quick, but I literally have a race packing checklist thanks to Jason, because I think a while ago he made this point in a previous podcast episode, and I have everything there from my safety gear. I have my helmet, gloves, elbow protector, rib protector, my shoes, my karting suit, my neck brace, to things like every single tool that's crucial for my success, to things like tire pressure gauge, and the number of tools would be probably smaller than most of you will expect. There's a racer, Dan Rivera, with our group, and his tool belt, it's a work of art. He literally has, I want to say, 20 tools on his tool belt, and that's all he uses most of the weekend. 20 tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wrenches, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, something like that. Simple screwdrivers, a mallet.
Are you on a Tony kart?
I am. What about you, Mike?
When you started talking about 7 and 9 mil.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that's not in my tool bucket. That's for sure. Yeah.
I'm coming with a Tony Guard bias here. Guilty.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I actually just made a video this last weekend about just a handful of tools that you can get away with successfully. Have a successful weekend at the track. You could probably, end up in the barriers once or twice and straighten some stuff out with the tool set that I had put out.
Plug your vlog.
Yeah, the vlog is Norcal Karting Vlog. The channel is Michael Walden Racing on YouTube here, but it's a new vlog that I'm starting, and the front of it's always titled Norcal Karting Vlog. So
When Ashley
check
hears
that
that,
out.
she's going to send you a cease and desist.
I had figured it was gonna come from someone. I was excited to first talk to you about it, and Yeah, this is.
Oh no, I think, like I said earlier, I think it's great. It's stuff I want to do, but I already showed you my stack of Norcal karting things what I want to do. So no, it's and again, it's getting the information out there. And I mean that vlog. I don't want to sidetrack you, but yeah, keep it up because videos like that, it's I don't even think about them anymore because it's I'm not new into karting.
Yeah.
So
And
I
this
have
ties
every
in.
I have every tool. I could if I was capable, I could rebuild my engine on the grid, but I'm not capable of rebuilding engines. But I have the tools to do it.
Yeah, and this ties it in actually really, really good because there's so many different avenues that we can go down with all of the information that we are trying to bring out and get to everybody, but also with our tools and the things that we bring to the track on the weekends and these checklists. We all talk about these. I'm late to the party. I got to get my checklist going here, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's ended up just staying in my trailer because of having forgotten it before. But I think the biggest thing for me was dog food this last time.
Dog food, yeah.
Dog food. My poor dog. I don't know if you want to call her poor or what. She ate like a king that weekend, but yeah, no, it goes right into like how much different loose ends that we need to keep tied together to make to string a weekend together.
Yeah, and going back to Andre's point, he keeps stressing the groups. And let's say you already have the cart, but you're that guy running around pits always borrowing someone's tools. Take a half hour, an hour, grab one of your buddies at the track and say, hey, I don't have tools. Can I borrow? You're not going to leave the guy's pit because it'll never come back. But can I borrow your toolbox? Can I borrow you to go through your cart and say, oh, I need a 7, like Andre said, I need a 7 mil, I need a 9 mil, or if you're on a Burrell, it's going to be the 8 mil, the 32 or 13s and 10s and 8s. Like each cart is going to have their own wrench sizes, etc. So you don't need to go to Costco and buy that 300 piece tool set and carry that to the track with you all the time. That's a great way to get tools because it's cheap. Then you can get one of those, toolboxes that has the 3 drawers and then the one top caddy on the very top. Scale down that toolkit. Like you're not going to need a size 27 millimeter socket.
No,
you don't need it. Now, I think you need the 22 or whatever it is, or 7/8 for the front. Front spindle nuts. I think it's 7/8 in American. I don't know in metric. But you can get rid of so many tools out of those big kits that are very cost effective. Scale it down and then start building that kit up.
That's exactly what promoted the video from the vlog this weekend.
Was it? Yeah.
I had a chance to go through the trailer and I was like, we're not even using half of this stuff. I'm tired of picking it up and packing it in and out.
And then Keith was asking earlier too about the mentally getting to the track. Last time I raced, I don't know, it's October. I did a road race. And before that, it had been a year before I actually raced. So what I did, I was taking my trailer out for the first time in a couple of years. I unloaded everything out of the trailer. And I spent a Saturday reloading everything and working on my stuff out of the trailer. So I would know, okay, when I'm at the track, I'm working out of the trailer. What do I need? And that helped me on the race day. I mounted a couple set of tires ahead of time. They were already on matching rims in the trailer, ready to go. I had all my tools that I needed. And it's like, oh, that was so much more enjoyable. And like I said earlier, the real reason I created my own checklist, I went to the track and forgot my gear bag. Like I could go to the track and forget a cart.
Yeah. Because
you could borrow or rent a cart, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to go to a track and borrow somebody's helmet. That's just gross. And so after I forgot my gear bag, it's like, how? You've been doing this for so long, you forget your driving gear? It's like, all right, checklist time.
Yep.
And
thanks to you, I won't be forgetting that.
What's that?
Thanks to you, I won't be doing that because you brought this up like months ago about the checklist, and it's been really helping me.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I start off with a blank piece of paper. I was like, okay, toolbox, and if there's special tools in there that you have, then I write those down separate under my toolbox checklist. It's like, oh, okay, I need what car 14 millimeter end wrench for the rear bumper bolts. Like none of my other carts used 14 mil, but that one cart did. So okay, I need that wrench. Put it in there.
Speaking of checklists, I had another one that had come up. I'm glad we're bringing this up because I had kind of forgotten about it. A pre-grid checklist. Because right now I'm about 5 pounds under, so we're filling it up with gas for that.
Yep.
And a couple times I forgot to fill it up, and I was pretty lucky on the scales. They were hit and miss that day. So, but I knew that I forgot again. I forgot to fill it up again, and then we forgot. That it's just one of my most frustrating days at the track was forgetting to fill the fuel back up when we knew we needed to do it pre-grid, and
Yeah.
looking for the whatever tool that you need right now. We got 10 more minutes before we got to be on grid, and where is the air pressure gauge? Right. That's one of the organization goes back to the checklist and just keeping it organized.
And
Will
that's
save you a
where
lot of
one of the
headache.
benefits too, where Andre said he shadowed Billy Cleveland for the day. I, I could think of a lot of people I can match to Billy Cleveland as far as following him. I can't think of anyone better. Like, does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that bring that same intensity as Billy Cleveland to the racetrack, and just he's got his program. And again, he's very successful, and just watching what he's doing is like, you get out, well, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Well, there's a reason for it. I mean, it's
For it all.
Yeah.
For it all.
for it all.
Good
Yeah,
reasons
Billy.
to it.
Billy was in a podcast maybe a year and a half ago, and it's like it is super inspirational for me to kind of hear his journey and then see how he operates and the program he runs, year after year. I would say one thing that kind of I took with me from that podcast and talking to him, it takes a lot to do battle. And if you want to do battle month after month, year after year, then it's good to get in like that program mindset early,
Yeah.
I think it was James today. James might have mentioned, or maybe it was Xander or you, Jason. You said something like, it is easy to drive a cart and it is easy to like get a cart onto the track on a practice day. It doesn't take a lot to like keep it there, right? Mechanically, they're simple things to get going. It just takes a while sometimes, when you're learning to debug, figuring out that there's no point chasing a short in a wiring loom, just replace the loom. Probably you figure that out once, next time you'll be out there quick. But like you guys said, it takes a lot of experience to make it go fast when you need it to go fast, and like keeping it there at that like edge is hard. So it's easy to get going, it's hard to get going real good. So like my thing is try to meet people like Billy Cleveland and try to provide some value and learn from them. And the good thing to know, if you see a racer who doesn't have somebody like kind of like shadowing or following him around, just go and help them lift the cart. They might not have an electric stand. Go and help them put the cart onto their stand when they come off the track, then put it off the stand when they come back to the track when it's their turn to go out. Offer to clean their cart. If you're a teenager and listening and you're wondering, well, I don't know if my parents want to let me do this. Okay, if you're able to get to the track, if they're cool with that, you can learn a lot just by cleaning somebody's cart and talking to them and observing what they do.
I personally
Most
am always
people-
looking for karting kids that want to help with my real business with extra kart parts. And
And
I'm
you have a
upfront.
job opening too, right?
Yeah, oh,
right
yeah,
now?
absolutely, always. I mean, I have so much inventory and product I need to sort and get through, and it's, yeah. I mean, you want to learn how to tear apart an engine? I have engines you can tear apart. You want to learn how to put together a cart? All right, you got to tear it down first, clean it, and then put it together. But I mean, yeah, there's those opportunities around. And if you want to take it a next step further, let's say you don't want to drive, but you want to be a wrench. I've had some great life experiences just from karting and traveling around as a mechanic, etc. And if you put the time and effort in to learn the sport, you can make good money, and you meet some great people. And the industry is always looking for people that are handy with their hands. But yeah, like you're saying, go to the track, talk to people, or hey, can I do this? Can I clean your cart? Call me. I mean, I'll put you to work for a long time. I don't pay great, so I'll be honest. If I have to teach you everything, I'm not going to pay you great. If you walk in and you can do everything and make me money, I'll pay you really well. But those guys, they're working under teams getting paid really well. So
And there's just so much benefit to actually watching somebody with a program dialed in to knowing exactly what they're doing, what they want, what they expect. And like Lisa Caceres said, her program gives you 3 months of wandering around the pits in one day.
yeah.
And that's priceless. It
And I
really
think
is.
there's value to that too, where it came up a number of times in the chat with, do I rent a cart? It's like, before you buy anything, rent.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there and rent it. Just before, and it's going to do a lot of things. One, it's going to stress your wallet. If it doesn't stress your wallet, then you can race a cart. But if that one day of an outdoor karting school really stressed your wallet, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, I can't do that for another year," then you have to reevaluate your expectation from karting. But at the same time, when you start doing these schools, you're always going to take something away and go, "Oh, that saved me a lot of time." I deal with new guys all the time, and I had a guy show up yesterday, and he was wondering why I was putting air in the tires. And I go, "Well, the tires are flat." He goes, "Yeah, but you just put air in them a couple weeks ago."
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Yeah, they were probably flat the next day." Like, it's very rare do I ever come across karting tires that hold the air consistently 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
There's something, a bad O-ring or a valve leak or just a bad seal on the tire and the rim. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You guys know you're racing. You check the tire pressures every session.
Every session.
Every
Yeah,
session. And
absolutely. They don't hold.
yeah, and then you get the guy that's brand new. They want to check him once every 6 months. Like, no, it's every session.
Yeah.
And not as serious if you're a recreational guy and there's no leaks, but yeah, it's hands-on. It's a very hands-on sport, which is why I love it. I mean, it keeps
Yeah.
every part of my brain so engaged. Let's see, Andre and Mike. We'll do Andre because his name's on it, and then we'll do Mike because you came from indoor as well. Were you competing, or was it a tough transition from K1?
I think is he asking whether I was competing at K1? So yeah, I did the challenge GP. I won the season before the season was over, and I think the biggest thing I realized is I had done a 2-stroke kart rental a couple of times by then. I realized, for me personally, 2 strokes were a whole lot more fun than anything else. I did go to Cal Speed, and I love Cal Speed, and it's a lot of fun to do a 4-stroke race weekend there.
Are you from SoCal?
I'm from San Francisco here. I've been here about 9 years now. So
okay, so you're not you weren't based out of SoCal.
No. I just happened to go, and I flew down to see a friend, and I figured I'll just do the sprint series one Saturday, and I just knew that 4-stroke 206 is amazing. It is really fun, but 2-strokes scared me more, and I like that thrill and that physicality of it. So I was competing in K1, and the transition, it's it's not like similar at all in the sense that coming from K1 indoor, where you don't touch the carts. You don't worry about anything other than getting a decent cart. Hopefully, you got to keep track
Hopefully.
of carts, right? I
You
definitely
look
had
at
a
turns.
program at K1. Like, I didn't win that season just by showing up. I kept track of which carts are good. I did my research. They have a website where you can do quite a bit of scouting to figure out which carts go, which carts don't go. But it is a different ball game, and apples and oranges. You come to outdoor, and even if you don't need any tools because you're running with a team, the skills are different. They don't translate in my mind. So that's why I kind of always say I wish I would have done outdoor earlier, because latter parts of that K1 season, I was like, this is a lot of fun. I love K1 because I think I just love the company and the story behind the founders and what they're doing. But personally, I wish I would have done more outdoor earlier. And Keith, I highly recommend you make that switch without overanalyzing. Like, if you have the resources and you want to do wheel-to-wheel racing, then I think personally this is where it's at. Outdoor karting, it's grassroots, it's direct, there's no suspension, you can take care of your kart if you want, you don't have to, you can have a team do it. If you don't have the resources, you maybe don't want to do wheel-to-wheel racing, do the track days, do the practice days, and go and rent a kart. But like Jason said, don't just go and buy the first kart you see, try out that kind of a kart ahead of time, right? You don't want to buy a 2-stroke kart and realize that you don't really like the idea of doing a top-end rebuild every 7 to 8 hours, and you don't like the idea of, I don't know, mixing fuel and not being able to use pump fuel. Maybe you prefer doing a 4-stroke where there's a bigger grid, 30 people instead of like 10, 15 people or whatever it is, 20. So that's my invitation for you, Keith. Like, do it. Like, just do it, man. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah.
How about you, Mike?
I totally agree. Just do it. If you believe it's going to be tough, if we convince you that it's not going to be tough, you still need to just do it. It is the funnest jump that I've ever made. And honestly, competing in the Challenge GP like Andre was, and coming into this, we said it earlier.
I wasn't competing there. I'm not that fast yet.
Xander said it the best, even from karts to cars, from indoor to outdoor. You're starting over. You're starting over.
Oh, you meant K1 Challenge Sheet. Yeah. I thought you meant Challenge of the Americas for a sec. That was like a couple weeks ago here. I was like, yeah, one day, but yeah,
next year.
Yeah, no, so it's just starting over. It is I can't even call it a transition. I'd say it's a step. You got to take your foot off the ground to reach this one.
And that's a good point, where it's, if you haven't been in a kart, at bare minimum, try indoor at bare minimum.
Yes.
And then it's what's indoor, $30-$40 a session or whatever. It's pretty darn affordable. If you find yourself, I want to go do that again, go do indoor again. And if you find yourself, I need more, then look into outdoor karting schools. And again, go to norcalkarters.com, send me an email. We have a contact form. I mean, that's how I got started. My first racing experience outside of stupid street racing stuff. When I was in high school, I struggled with my grades. And my dad said, if you get straight A's, I'll send you to a car racing school. So he sent me to Laguna Seca. Him and I actually did it together. My senior year in high school, we went together and we did the Russell School at Laguna. And I'm going to sound like a prick, but I just didn't appreciate it. It's just like, whatever. It's like, my dad spent a lot of money on it. Like, we didn't have the money for us to go racing, but my dad loved racing his whole life. And him and I, at the end of the year, it's like, it was okay, but I wasn't going to go empty my bank account to go race Formula Fords because they were turds. And then my dad reminded me, he's like, hey, what about karting? Let's go try that again. And we did a karting school. and it was Race Karts Inc. with Lisa Caceres, and then at the time the gentleman running it was Mike DeRosier. He's out at Sonoma all the time. He's one of my good friends, and I met him through the karting school, and that guy's just a character, like just a great relationship I have in my life. Well, after that karting school, I was like, take my money, take it. Like, all right, Laguna did nothing for me. Like, whatever. I mean, it sucked. It really did suck. Davis in a slow go-kart, I was like, take my money, take it now. Like, that was the most fun I've had behind a wheel. And ever since then, I've just been in karting. I loved it. And yeah, so if you're just on the fence, get out, just do it. Again, go to Norcal Karters, click on start karting now. Send me a quick little form email. Like I said earlier, I'm calling people back. I try to call them within 24 hours if it's in the middle of the week. If it's over the weekend, it's about 72 hours, depending on when I get it. But yeah, we'll get you in a cart and go try it. That's a lot of fun. What do you guys want to add? We're going on 3 hours.
That's a long time.
Ashley's going to chew my ass out tomorrow.
That's been a lot of fun, and I would say if anybody's watching this and you're wondering, like, what is your one point of contact for getting into karting, I think it's clear. Jason is the way to go. So go to his website, fill out that form. There's a link under the comments here, and he will help you get started. And don't be intimidated by the race weekend kind of focused faces of the racers. Go up to them when they seem like they're taking a breather and say, hey, I'm Andre. I'd love to get into this. That's what I've done before, or I haven't done anything. What do you suggest? And most people will be willing to guide you as well, right? And talk to people, go out and talk to the race teams. All the race teams I spoke to in Norcal have been super helpful. Everybody's on top of their game when it comes to letting the new guy know how they can partake. And I would definitely talk to all of them and figure out who you have the best click with and go from there.
That's a good point too, that I don't think we really touched on, that personal relationship. When you're talking to the different teams, it's not, don't buy a cart from the first shop you walk into. It's just, maybe call them a few times, visit with other shops and build that personal relationship. Because unless you're going to be strictly an online guy and buy everything online and try to learn how to tune and drive your cart through a forum, which that's another way of doing it too. But if you want to stay local, yeah, find a shop that you have that relationship with. Mike, what would you like to add?
Yeah, check the vlog out that I'm starting up. It's NorCal Karting Vlog. It's gonna be that exact situation. It's gonna be me walking into a typical race day, typical practice day, and you can see what the typical struggle or fun that we have, and it'll be more or less what to expect. Yeah, come check that out. Come have fun with us on the vlog. And get out there, get you a cart. Let's go karting.
Yeah, and the biggest thing too is I want people to understand there are resources out there. There's different types of karting available. On this show today, we specifically talked about sprint karting, small Grand Prix tracks under a mile. The last race I did happened to be a road race at Thunder Hill. So it's a go-kart on a full-size race car track. And then we also have the oval stuff, which I'm looking for, one or two guests over the next couple of weeks or months that would like to be kind of my oval specialist, because I don't know anything about it. I know they go left in dirt. But yeah, that's another part of karting people can get involved in. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to stop here either. I mean, it's Xander and Xander from Kart Chaser, we're working on something in the background. That again is just going to kind of pile on to what they getting started in karting. So if you're watching this after the fact, send us an email or even leave comments in the sections. I actually respond to the YouTube comments and the Facebook comments as well, because it's an ongoing conversation. And honestly, we'll probably have to redo it in 3 years anyway, because the karting landscape is going to change. I mean, it is good to see that the Briggs is going on. I don't know, maybe 10 years now. I don't got to be close to it, which is good. For those who don't know, sometimes things change in 3 or 4 years when we're talking about the competitive racing side, which brings up another good point. If you're on a very tight budget, equipment that was raced very competitively 5 years ago is very cheap if you buy it used.
Absolutely.
So actually, on that point, one of the folks I know, he was fourth in the last race on a kart that is, I want to say 8 years old, or 9 years old, and I mean he was fourth. He's killing it, and he did it himself. He alone with his friend, but like, the call to action here is, don't let your resources get in the way of having fun. You're most likely gonna have resources to do a practice day every once in a while, and you don't have to. And another related thing, I know quite a few folks who pick up a hobby, they buy an item like an ATV or a cart or something, and they use it twice, and then 3 years later they sell it, right? Probably best not to do that. Just rent, see how we like it, like people said before, because might be that you rent it 2-3 times and you realize, hey, instead of Sonoma or some other track, I want to do oval and dirt, right? Or I want to do Thunder Hill and long races with a super kart, because I don't know, you like going 140 miles an hour instead of 65 miles an hour, whatever it is, 120.
Yeah, and again, the rental stuff is it's a great way to test the the word is escaping me.
Test the waters.
The real desire.
Oh yes, yeah.
The real desire.
Put the stress test to the wallet.
Yes.
Keep the passion there, right?
Yeah. And earlier, I didn't want to come off rude as, it's an expensive sport. It's like, but I mean, it is. I mean, it's karting is an expensive hobby. It's only cheap racing.
That's a good way to put it.
So if you don't have any notion or familiarity with racing, it's expensive. It's an expensive hobby.
Do you mind if we quickly just spitball out some numbers to give people an idea? Like later they might look at the recording and they might wonder how much is storing a cart at a racetrack, or how much is a set of tires, and how much is a race registration, including tires, fuel, oil.
Absolutely. And then you guys are the two perfect guys for this, because you just recently bought stuff.
Absolutely.
We have Mike on a 4-stroke and we have Andre on a 2-stroke.
So
Mike, go ahead, yeah.
On the 4-stroke side of it, usually a club race is about $55 for the race day. All the clubs are $35. That's just the entry fee. $35 for a practice day, usually the day before. And then a brand new cart is going to be about $7,500. That's rolling onto the track. That's your oil,
brand
plugs,
new
motor, 4-stroke Briggs. Burl. That's right.
Burl.
And and other than that, after that first big large purchase, it's the $55 for the race and fuel for the day, which is 87 octane. So now we're up to a whopping $80, $96 a gallon now, but it used to be cheap. And I think then your pickup truck to put it in, or your car. I've seen a cart in a Prius. So you can get very creative with your transportation.
So new, we're talking in the neighborhood on the 4-stroke. So for those that are listening, new 4-stroke, we're in the neighborhood of 7,500, and that's kind of in line with the different manufacturers. You're going to go up and down, $500-$600 from that price if you go new for for a reputable Italian chassis with the Briggs 206. If you're in the used market, that same package, anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 for it to be not hammered, not beat up. If you want to pile on and say, I found one on Craigslist for $1,000, I guarantee you it's going to cost you a lot more money to get it on the track. Or it's bent, or the engine's about to blow up. Something is going on with that cart. If it's a current competitive cart for $1,000, when new, they're $7,500. Something isn't adding up. So just budget. If you're going into Briggs racing, use $3,000 to $4,000 to get on the track, or new $7,500. And then Andre, you went the
I'm
two-stroke
gonna focus
route.
on the two-stroke 100cc. So we're talking KA 100 or Rock VLR engines. These are
Did you go new or used?
I'll mostly talk about used, but I'll start with new. And so these are air-cooled engines. There's no radiator, no coolant, simple. The clutch is very simple, automatic clutch, one gear. New, similar, 75, 8,000 for like an engine and a chassis. Probably add some, setup costs like a couple $100 to get it made into a complete. So the Rock VLR is, I think, about 2,400, 2,200, 2,300, the engine new. The KA is about 2,800, brand new engine. Chassis, like let's say 5K. I would recommend buying used if you are starting out. I would buy, if you want to be really competitive, buy a 1 to 3 race old chassis. You can get that, let's call it 3K for a chassis. And
chassis only, no engine.
Just the chassis. So we're talking a roller, which means everything you need except the engine and the exhaust. And most likely, you will probably get like an engine mount included in that 3K, and then you will definitely get a good chassis for 3K if you look around used. And 3,500, you will get it easily from a team after a big event, right? So now you're talking used engine. I don't know, maybe buy a new engine and don't worry about buying a used engine. But in the end, used 100cc cart is going to cost you like, let's call it 6K, 5,500, and you can get it way cheaper. You can get it for 4K, 3,500 if you look around. But that means that there's going to be, you might have to do some work on it. You might want to make sure it's straight. You always want to make sure it's straight on a used chassis anyhow. You will want to maybe go to Ron White and put it on a chassis table or whatever. But I would say between 4 and 6, and you're good. And then race costs are quite a bit more than 4-stroke. Rock Sonoma, which I'll focus on, is probably the most expensive of the non-traveling West Coast races. And you're talking, they have a new to this year registration option. You can do just registration without fuel, tires, or oil, and that's $190. So that's $190. That gets you the race registered, but you still have to use the spec tires and oil and fuel, right? So if you have that left over from the last race, you just saved yourself a lot of money. Tires are about $250. Fuel is, let's say, $17 a gallon. But if you go on a practice day, you just use the fuel from the pump at the track at Rock Sonoma, it's $10 a gallon. And on a race weekend, maybe you'll use, let's say, $70 worth of fuel, the $190 for the registration. Maybe you reuse your tires in the beginning, so you get 2 races out of them. So all in all, your race weekend is probably going to cost you $600, $500-600, right? Which is, Mike, how does that compare to a 4-stroke?
It's about 5-6 times more for the race weekend.
Well, so let's back up for a second.
Fuel, right?
Well, let's back up so we're on the same page, because every time I do comparisons on pricing, I always do eye for eye. So Andre, being that this is you're going in your first year, how many races do you do on your tires?
I'm actually gonna do new tires in the beginning for the race, each race. Like each
Every
race
race.
weekend, new tires
Okay.
for me in the beginning.
Okay, so
Because
Mike,
I don't have a.
wait, hold on, Andre, hold on. Mike, how often are you putting new tires on?
I'm on my second set of tires, and this is my this be my third race coming up. But
Third race. Okay.
yeah, multiple sessions, probably 30 sessions on in between these two sets of tires. And I'm not
And the
putting
reason I
new
wanted
ones
to back
on.
up on that is because it's very important for us to explain to people. It's not just because it's 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. It's the 4-stroke guy. I'm pointing the wrong direction. My camera's backwards. The 4-stroke guy, yeah. The 4-stroke guy is their compound's a little bit harder. They're not carrying quite the same cornering speed, so the tires are going to last longer. Whereas the 2-stroke guy, the compound is softer, and generically, I mean, pretty much everyone's going to start new tires with the 100cc 2-stroke stuff. Pretty much everyone's going to start off the race day, not the race weekend, the race day with new tires. So I think we just need to be fair when we're saying it, because unless you're in the back of the field and you're really working on more of just endurance and driving and lines, realistically, you're probably putting new tires on every day for 2-stroke.
Yeah.
And then Mike, you're going
out.
on, let's just say the third race.
Yeah, we could say the third race. I mean,
Okay.
I really could stretch those tires a lot longer than that. But it does get into more of a personal preference. You want those tires more than need them a lot of guys put
with the
them on.
stuff being it's a harder compound, you 1 or 2 races old isn't going to be such the time difference as the 2-stroke with the softer compound, where it could be the 8-9 tenths of a second just from putting tires on. And again, I think that's the attraction of the 4-stroke stuff. It's it is less maintenance even from that standpoint. You're not mounting tires every single day.
Absolutely.
So we have the tire cost. Let's just assume they cost the same amount, because depending on where you get the tires, they're going to be within $10 a set. And then, so what would be the next item, Andre?
Maybe let's look at like fuel, oil, and like incidentals. And
so on a typical, do you want to do race? Let's do race day. Let's do race day only and not include practice. So on a typical race day, how many gallons are you going through?
Maybe call it 3 to be safe. 2.5.
3 gallons at $17 a gallon. I'm bad at math, so it's $20 a gallon, so it's $60. And then
race weekend, you can bet on like $80 a race weekend.
$80 for the weekend. And then Mike, with the 4-stroke stuff, how many gallons?
I'm at $20 a race weekend.
A whole race weekend.
A whole race weekend.
So on a race day, what are you doing? Like a gallon and a half?
It's probably a gallon and a half. Yeah.
Okay, so
it's not much.
$6. So $9.
Yeah.
$9 for a race day. And the reason I don't want to really talk about practice days, everyone's practice day is going to be different, but
sure,
everybody's race day is going to be the same. We all get 40 laps, or we all get whatever it is. Whereas on a practice day, Andre might do 100 laps and Mike might do 4 laps.
Mm-hmm.
So just from a comparison standpoint,
I think when somebody's looking at just 2-stroke, not necessarily Rock Sonoma, the costs could be different, right? If you are racing in a different club that doesn't travel, there are cheaper options. Rock Sonoma is a little bit more expensive, so that's something to keep in mind. Depends where you are geographically or where you want to race. If you do a traveling series, you have to consider other costs too, right? Hotels, transport. So if you're starting out, easiest thing to do is find a series with enough people in your class that you're interested in that maybe doesn't travel, because it's just a lot easier if you have to get to know one track versus 4, 7, whatever it is.
And more of the prestigious events like the KPX, I notice is more of an expensive event. You're paying probably about $150 for a race day ticket, race entry, rather than
and a lot of that too is like you get to KPX or Sonoma. Sonoma's goofy, not in a bad way. It's a club. They're targeting. They want to brand it as a club race, but the track is very expensive to rent.
Mhm.
And there's a live stream as well, right? So
they do the
that
live
is something
stream.
other series don't often have.
Yeah, they do the live stream, but then you're drawing in top talent. So you're Sonoma. There's the drivers that are winning at Sonoma can win at the national level because national level guys go to Sonoma. So kind of inherently, even though it's like they really want to grow that local base and get that series stronger, when you have national champions out there that you're racing against, it kind of just picks the whole field up, and everyone goes, well, I can't go out on used tires because no one else is. So it's they're kind of in an interesting spot there. But then when you get to KPX, it's like, and with Sonoma, Sonoma has a big staff bill. KPX, they have a big staff bill. So they're bringing in tech people, they're bringing in corner workers, they're paying all these people. So if they're going out of their region, which KPX, they're going to Reading, they're going to be going to Reno. They need to pay their workers to go up there, and they have to absorb that cost somehow in the form of an entry fee. But that's where it's Andre, to your point, where other tracks might be cheaper. I would say maybe a club track like Dixon or Davis, if you were to break it out in a spreadsheet, the entry fee itself is probably $100 cheaper. But if you factor in the tires, the fuel, the oil, it's going to be about the same. The only difference is Sonoma, you're paying it up front, one charge. Whereas if you're going to Dixon, Davis, Prairie City, and you're running the same class, you're paying that track their entry fee. You're buying tires from your local shop. You're buying gas and your oil somewhere else. So it's all spread out.
There's one thing that helped me make the choice in case it's helpful for somebody. So I'll preface it by saying, if you go to Blue Max or Dixon, you can get really cheap practice days. You pay $300 something.
Oh yeah.
You get an annual pass. You get your own key.
Yeah.
You can go any day, anytime during the daytime. You can go on a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, on a Saturday. And it is really great for cheap practice, right? And the tracks are great. And so with that said, if you're like me, somebody who's starting out, and you maybe don't have transport, maybe you don't want to have a van or a trailer or a big SUV or something or a truck. Maybe you live in the city like I do, and it's kind of hard to find a place to store those things. Sonoma is really good for that because there are multiple storage options. You could store with the track. You could store with a handful of teams. Whenever you go there, the cart will be ready, and you don't have to worry about transporting it home. Something happens, I'm just gonna go home and chill and come back next time to worry about what happened. Like, I don't have to pack up my broken cart right now and go home, sad, looking at it in the van or whatever. So the storage costs, let's call it around $125 per month. So for $125, you show up on a practice day and the cart is on the pit lane, and you finish. You take your personal items, put it in the trunk of your car, and the cart is put back in storage for you. And that is a huge deal, and you can't quite get that in some other local tracks. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, Mike, do you trailer your cart or do you store it at the track?
I do trailer it.
You do trailer it. So, and then there's the other side of it too, right? Trailers aren't cheap right now.
No.
Tell me, I'd love to hear more about your setup.
Well, it's a sponsored setup. It's my uncle's trailer. Yeah, because he definitely noticed how much of an advantage it is to have a little space to unload everything and more or less set it up as you're unloading it. Kind of just let the trailer throw up and set up camp right there.
Throw up? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, and it's just so much nicer to be able to just keep everything in that one spot. So yeah, we got a small trailer, single axle trailer. I tow behind a Chevy pickup truck, just regular size pickup truck, and we were talking about it yesterday. We could probably run 4 carts out of that thing.
And how big is the trailer?
You can stand up in it, and it's about 7 to 8 foot long.
Okay. All right, hang with me for 1 second here.
No worries. Yeah.
There.
There's my tool setup. That's actually typically how you're going to see us set up at the track.
That looks real good.
Yeah,
you still have the screen there?
Yep. Yeah, we just got yeah, there's the trailer there. It was originally for a motorcycle, and we're able to outfit it with make the cart fit in there.
NASCAR
So yeah,
toolbox.
that we got just a handful of tools there that we take with us. It's not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot at all. That and the table, and that all folds up into the into that trailer really nicely.
And not to scare anybody off, in the beginning, you might not need everything, right? You don't need an air compressor because your friend has one, or race weekend there's one on the track that you can use.
That's right.
You might not need you might not need an impact driver if you're only doing practice days, because you won't be, you'll have time and you'll be chilling or whatever it is. So I don't want to put anybody off by making them worry about all these tools.
I think it goes back to, again, setting expectations. And if you don't want to get an air compressor and get all these other things, then it's probably advantageous to either find a track that supplies it, or possibly a race team that does joint sharing. I know for me, it's like I have air compressors. I don't have one in my trailer anymore. I just have an air tank because I just fill the air tank up.
That's it. That's all you need.
I can't bead tires with it, but I do that at home anyway. And there really isn't no wrong or right way. I mean, Andre's showing up to the track with his car and his helmet. His cart's ready to go hit the track. Mike and I, we're loading the trailer. We're going through everything. We're doing our checklist. And it's like, you kind of wonder, well, do I want to pay for rental? And it's like, well, no, but you're paying for a trailer and you're paying your time to load the trailer, and towing it costs more money because the truck doesn't get as good gas mileage. I personally love my trailer. I love having everything right there. For me, it's ruled out excuses on race weekends of, I don't have that, I don't have this, because I know it's in the trailer. But there's something to be said of throwing it in the back of the pickup truck and just going to the track and not even bringing a cart stand, just working out of the truck, drop it on the grid and go.
You just reminded me I think a key thing about karting, which comes handy, if you have a minimal setup, which you might in the beginning, right? As a beginner like me, you don't need to have all the spare parts in the beginning, because most likely there's going to be, if you chose the right platform, like let's say you chose OTK, you're doing 2-stroke, and you chose, I don't know, the KA100 engine, there's going to be a lot of people with that chassis and with that engine. And you can go to a race team, you can go to Speed Sense, you can go to Kart Speed and say, hey, or you can go to Jason and say, hey, Jason, do you have this part? Or hey, hey, Austin, do you have this part? And they're likely going to have the common parts, even on a practice day, Mike. So
yeah, you can pick them up. pick them up one at a time.
Yeah.
All my spare parts that I have now are just the ones that got away clean through the wreck. They're ones that come in a kit of 2, but I only needed 1. It's that they accumulate.
And dude, that's a great point. And you guys are gonna have to cut me off because I can soapbox this one for a while. But support local shops. It's and
Yes.
I am one of the cheapest fuckers out there. Excuse my language if kids are listening. I price shop. I really do. But being in the sport, I've worked in the industry for many years. I've seen the industry get hammered, and I'm not gonna pick on online guys because they bring a different value proposition to karting. But if it's within 10% of an online price, go local because one of these days you're going to be at the track. You're going to wad the cart up. You're going to have a bent steering shaft. You're going to have a bent tie rod. And you're going to be looking around with your thumb in your ass because there's no shops there because the shops are going, well, we didn't show up because there's only X amount of racers at the track and we can't afford to go to the track and do support anymore. And that's the reality. And we've already seen it big time where you look at these teams and their teams, they don't have Monday through Friday hours. And because they're not making money on the parts Monday through Friday, because those guys are buying online. And I'm not ragging on online guys. I sell online. My income is online. I sell used shit online. But I also do recognize if I'm at the track and I need stuff, it's like, okay, I need to buy stuff from Donald. I need to buy stuff from the guys at Sonoma because one day I'm going to be out there and I'm going to need that part and they're gone. It's like, oh, wait, that online guy is not going to be able to get it to you that day. So just, again, I don't want to soapbox it too much, but if you're sitting there weighing things out and it's coming down to less than 10%, try to keep the money local.
Yeah.
Great call out.
Absolutely.
Actually, I gotta say, I'm just super impressed with the teams in general. You go to these teams, and for what it's worth, mostly it's very often it's like one person running everything, right? Like this one person owns the team. Maybe they have hired some people, but these are not like huge companies. We're not talking about like 100-person operation, right? Or a 50-person operation. So you go to this one person who is super busy. In their head, they're thinking about all these racers they're supporting, and they've been so nice, like just so responsive, courteous, and willing to help. And that's blown me away because in the end, like they're there to compete, but they're also there to make the industry bigger and better. And that's, I guess, just racing in general. People are super nice, willing to help each other. Ivan and Roman kind of taking me in and showing me the ropes, and Billy Cleveland letting me observe and be part of like that weekend at Challenge of the Americas. These are big things, right? For me, like they made my racing program more attainable, right? And the shops have done the same. Like I've talked to a bunch of shops about asking, to buy a part or a cart from them, and they've all been great. And I bought parts, and I will continue buying parts. So just reach out to them, folks.
Yeah, and that's a good point too that you do say as far as the staffing with the track. It's a lot of people want to say, "Oh, why don't you just hire more people?" It's like, well, you need more money in the bank to hire people, and if you hire someone, that person needs to be able to bring in that value to support their paycheck plus more to make it worthwhile. And a lot of like you said, a lot of every track you go to, a lot of these guys are working on very, very slim staffing. And they just hustle all day long. They bust their ass and they hustle all day long. And the ones that are doing well have balanced that hustle and customer service. The ones that aren't doing well, somewhere the balance is off. But yeah, when you say that, I'm trying to think of every single team out there right now. and pretty much all of them are 1 or 2 man shows, even the bigger teams.
Hmm.
Like and like at Sonoma, a lot of the teams have mechanics under the tent, but the mechanics aren't keeping the program running. They're keeping the drivers on the track, but they're not selling parts or grabbing stuff, or it's yeah. So now that you say that, that's very true. But and again, that's why it's important to support local. I mean, it's there's only one kart shop in Norcal that I can think of right off the top of my head that really is open Monday through Friday, that caters to walk-in guys, and that'd be Donald up at Prairie City.
Yeah, talk about cater. That he is a Donald Durbin Jr. does a great job at running that track and doing his customer service and making sure everybody is taken care of. I don't know how he does it by himself like that. I mean, I watch him and I can't tell you how he's able to make sure every aspect is just attended to.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect, but it's all attended to, and he really has his heart in it, and you can tell that. You can tell the balance is there, like you were saying.
Yeah, the balance is there. And I'm not trying to knock the other shops in the area, but I'm just, this is about getting new people into the sport. And when I think of walk-in shops, granted his hours, they're not open Tuesday or Wednesday, but they're open Thursday through Monday. So they're open on the important days.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a walk-in shop. And I actually want somebody to call me out and say, hey, you forgot about this guy or you forgot about that guy. But I don't think I am. Like in my head, I'm trying to go through my sponsor list. But the other guys, they're race teams. And they're, if they're prepping stuff, they're privately prepping stuff. They're not, again, catered to open door. Am I have to be wrong about that, but Andre's shaking his head like, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it sounds it sounds kind of wrong, but it seems like, to me, it's being a new karter, it seems it's one of the only and best shows in town for as far as customer service, track service, and track support goes.
Yeah.
When you're looking to walk up and buy one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah. I'm kind of actually depressed now.
Well, we're getting it out there. We're getting the info out there. That's what.
No, we are getting it out there, but I can't ever think about one thing at a time. So it's like thinking, and I've been down this road many times. Oh, obviously I need to open up a kart shop. And then it goes like, well, then obviously I'm just going to be one of those other brick and mortars trying to compete with an online guy.
With the online.
Enter Norcal Karters. We just got to get more people in to support the brick and mortar.
That's it. If we all bring one more.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really nice sounding board or like call to action throughout the season, and I'll be like repeating that, and I hope listeners will too.
Well, I stole it from somebody else. I'm pretty sure I stole it from one of my buddies, Henry Damus, who races shifters out here. I'm pretty sure he's the one that told me that, and I was like, I walked away thinking that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Right, and it's like, it's so simple. Like it's just
simple and effective.
It's simple and effective.
Put it in a personable, achievable goal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Henry that said that to me one day, and I like walked away. Yeah, that was my reaction. That's so stupid. And then it's like, it's so damn simple. Like we all know one person we can get in next year.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
yeah, get them into our Master 100cc group. Come on, 100cc group.
That's right. No, and that's the recreational karter, right? It's it's so hard reaching that guy because those are the guys that build the groups. It's like you got the Track Magic group. I don't want to call my buddies Team Visalia. I don't want to call them recreational racers because they're a bunch of fucking badasses. But yeah, they have a text list. They text each other every single day, and it's like, oh, we're gonna go to Button Willow. We're gonna go to Santa Maria. We're gonna do this. Oh, this is where we're gonna go to dinner when we're all out. And they roll in 15 or 20 strong to an event.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That
and
is
it's just
cool.
a bunch of dudes that just enjoy hanging out together, and they love racing karts, and yeah, that's what they're doing.
If you have friends going and they're egging you on, like, hey, dude, Andre, come on, let's go, man. Let's hit Sonoma on Sunday the 20th or whatever it is. It is so much more fun.
Yeah,
It is such a fun idea to know that you have something to look forward to with your friends. You'll meet some new people. Why not?
I've driven more in the past year than I have in, I don't know, 10 years. Because I was out at Davis with my dad one day, and I'm looking at this other guy over there, and he was having problems with his cart. It's like, I was pretty sure I knew what the problem was, so I walked over, helped him fix it. We started talking. We knew each other because we raced back in the late 90s, early 2000s together. And then as we're talking, he's like, oh yeah, now we remember each other. We exchanged numbers, and we just said, yeah, we need to do this every week. Like we all say it, right? Hey, we need to get dinner. We need to do this. Well, sure enough, he followed up with me. He's like, oh shit. Like he followed up. I told him I would go. Now I have to go. And the first couple of times it was like a chore. It's like, man. And then started getting in the process. All right, we're going out to the track. We're doing it. And yeah, nowadays Thursday, every Thursday at Prairie City. But it's nice having that person. Then you get in that group and you see other people that show up on the same days. It's like, oh, wait, I'm going to get their number and I'm going to get their number. And that's exactly what Andre was talking about. It's like get 4 or 5 people. It starts with one, get 4 or 5 people. Then you just start texting each other and getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm looking at the comments that came through. Connor's bald spot. 11:09. Holy cow. You're not supposed to tell my guests what time it is.
We got to get your YouTube subscriber count to 1,000 so you can do your mobile.
I don't want that haircut. But I did say it. I did say it.
It's going to happen. It's a matter of time.
I didn't even know at the time when I said that. I didn't even know that was a thing with Kart Chaser. It's so funny. It was after the fact I started watching more and more like older Kart Chaser things. It's like, man, I don't know. I just dig what they're doing. It's you got his old farts trying to, oh, we need to grow karting. And it's like, but we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then you get these kids in here with Kart Chaser. It's like, oh wait, this is pretty cool.
This is different.
It is different, yeah. And I hate watching racing. Like Norcal Karters should never admit that. But all racing, right. I hate watching all racing. It just, I think I know what it feels like to drive a Formula One car. I've never been to a race. Like, how do I know? But I was like, I'm watching the racing stuff. It's like, it just doesn't get me going. Then I watch the Kart Chaser stuff. It's like, that actually gets me excited to go to the track. Like watching how they do their video stuff and the announcing and everything. Like, and then the behind the scenes stuff. And I'm really fangirling over, Ryan Norberg, to be quite honest. Being that he's a tag racer, when I worked for SwedeTech, I didn't pay much attention to the tag stuff. We just didn't build a lot of tag engines. And so now I'm watching his stuff. It's like his YouTube channel is fantastic. And just his content is really, really, it's like, man, now I feel like, what did I miss out on by not getting to know him sooner?
Yeah.
Just from the content standpoint.
Lots to learn, yeah.
Yeah, just in a lot of the insight that he has. I'm enjoying it. But all right, how are we going to wrap this thing up?
Part 2 coming soon.
part 2 coming soon, part duo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was hoping this would spin off into more, and maybe more questions afterwards will come in.
Mhm.
So if you're listening to this recorded, type away, we'll respond. But there's definitely plenty of content. I mean, we were kind of all over, but I think it'd be really cool to do a directed boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. I mean, now we have a lot of content, so it's like, okay, now let's break it down into 10-minute segments or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be have more focused episodes.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where the 2-stroke and the 4-stroke side, it's going to be different. Not that the racing is different or anything else, but the information.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of stuff that can be done. Just get to the track, go through that experience for the first time. And everyone's going to approach it differently. I mean, I jumped in feet first.
Mhm.
I went to one of our biggest regional races, not even knowing it was a big regional race. It's like, I don't know, kart race.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
there's a lot of people at this race. This sport is awesome. It's like, oh wait, yeah, you showed up to a regional, dummy.
Well, I'm doing the same thing. I bought a cart and lost my mind. I had so much fun at that rental cart session. And after I got a cart and just out there running it, it has been so much fun. I have not looked back. I'm running 3 series for my
Now,
first year.
did you do a rental at Donald's?
I did.
In the outdoor concession cart things?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then that's
Yeah.
what got you hooked.
That's what got his name is escaping me now, but it was one of the kids there that volunteers all the time for Donald. He ended up jumping in a cart because he saw that I had just stepped away from the whole rest of the race. So
Yeah.
when he came out there, it was a race in between me and him, and we put a show on.
Seth?
And Seth, yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. And we
I
put
was,
a
I
show
was
on.
gonna say, is a kid that runs his mouth a lot.
Well, I'll tell you, he can drive a cart like that too, and
Yeah.
man,
No, that
that was
sounds like
fun.
something Seth would do.
That was fun. It was the most fun I've ever had in a cart ever, and I highly suggest just getting one and getting into it because as we're saying, we jumped in it with both feet and everything. I don't think it was a terrible idea. It got me to where I am now.
No, I think you can overplan it and not take any action.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Andre had said earlier. It's like, just get out there. And again, we'll do another one. Let's see how the feedback goes. Maybe I need to work on some of my marketing stuff to get this outside of karting. So it's like, okay, how to get into karting. Now let's not advertise to karters. Let's
To
advertise
Karters, right.
to non-karters. Which that's my job to figure out.
I wanted to thank you for doing what you do for karting and having us on and sharing. Really appreciate the time and really appreciate the podcast and what you and Ashley are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a channel. I can hear myself talk. It's awesome.
Everybody else can hear it too, though.
Everyone else can hear it.
I totally agree with Andre, and I thank you too, Jason. Man, your website was probably one of the first ones that I had gone to and found Prairie City from. So,
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Tell Donald that. That way I can get him to re-up next year.
All right. Yeah, thank you for your contribution.
No, and again, it's the site's going to keep evolving. It's a lot of times I need a lot of motivation because this isn't my money maker at all. It is almost to the point where it breaks even, so I'm fine with that. But it's sometimes the stuff I want to do just becomes stagnant or on the back burner because it's like, here's my money maker and I need to crack that nut every day.
Yeah.
So do I really want to do a how-to video on how to install a throttle cable? It's like, do I need it? No, I don't need it, but karting needs it. And the more I get, hang out with more local guys or new guys, like, oh yeah, I forgot we all had a day one.
Yep.
But
And
yeah,
what
so
a day it is.
yeah, I mean it's great, right? It's like I skipped all the fuel lines and everything on my first day. It's like, no, I'm not doing any of this. I didn't know, but thank you guys. I really do appreciate the time. Hey, Andre, you got any parting words?
Yeah, I hear myself months ago and other people come up with excuses like, oh, I need to buy tools, or oh, I need to buy a trailer or transport, or oh, I need X, oh, I need Y. Just do it. Oh, but I've got beer night with buddies. Just do it. Oh, I gotta go and get fit first. I'm too fat, too slim, too light, too heavy. Just do it. Oh, I'm too young, I'm too old. Just do it. Go and rent a cart. Just do it. Try it out. Rent a race cart from a local race team, and see how you like it. Just do it. And then once you've done it, tell us how it went. Come on the show. Tell us how it got your heart pounding, and join our group, Norcal Master 100cc Kart Racers on Facebook. From there, you will get a WhatsApp invite. We are a WhatsApp group. It's free, as in beer. You don't have to pay a thing, and you get to talk to other racers who will come and train with you and help you out. Thanks,
Perfect.
Jason.
Thank you, Andre. And then next up, Mike Walden.
All right. Well, go visit the vlog. I just want to throw that out there. The NorCal karting vlog. Go check that out. It's going to be me, first time karter, out there going through all the stuff that hopefully maybe I can save you from going through. And we can have some fun doing it together. Yeah, check out the vlog. Check out NorCal Mondays next week. There's going to be more of this coming to you.
Yep.
I subscribe. Can't wait to see more of your episodes.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, that's it. Like, subscribe, share, guys. Thank you.
So I'm curious, did someone hang on for the actual, holy shit, 4 hours? If you hung on for the whole 4 hours, send me your email. You get a NorCal Karter shirt.
Ooh,
That's it.
Because we had people dropping like flies. No, that's not true. But a big, huge thank you to Xander Clements from Kart Chaser and James McMahon from Kart Pulse. I actually did a very terrible job at promoting James' website. But it's kartpulse.com. It's a community. It's a forum. It's a lot of how-tos. There's a discussion thread. You may or may not know who Xander is from Kart Chaser. I kind of assume if you have a go-kart, you know who Kart Chaser is. But if you don't, go check out their stuff. They're doing some really good media stuff with karting. They're making it exciting to watch on TV. So go check out Kart Chaser. Go check out Kart Pulse. And let's see, we also had Phil Hand on earlier tonight. He gets up early in the morning, so he signed off. So Phil Hand, thanks for joining us. And we also had Lisa Caceres on from Race Karts Inc. So if any of you are wondering how to get into karting, go to norcalkarters.com and check out our Start Karting Now button. Click on it, fill out the form, and if you're interested in information, I will email you. I will most likely call you because it's a lot easier to get through the information on the phone than it is an email. But go check us out, norcalkarters.com, and comment in the comment section if there's more content like this you want to see in the future, questions we didn't answer. I know there's a lot of them, and we'll just keep growing this series. So thank you to everybody.